Meeting called to order. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. The open session part of the meeting will begin at around 7 p.m. Public comment on closed session items. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on closed session agenda items?
There is no public comment on closed session items.
Thank you. Seeing that there are none, the board will now adjourn into closed session. Good evening. My name is Cindy Water, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting. Our interpreters are Francisco Mesa and Isidra Menjo. One of the interpreters will now translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families may hear the instructions.
Buenas noches. La reunión de hoy tiene servicios de interpretación simultánea en español. Para acceder a la interpretación, en breves momentos ustedes van a ver en la parte de abajo de su pantalla de Zoom un icono del globo terráqueo. Pueden hacer clic allí y escoger el idioma Spanish o español. Si están en su teléfono móvil, van a ver 3 puntitos en la parte superior o inferior derecha de su pantalla de Zoom. Pueden hacer clic allí para encontrar los servicios de interpretación y hacer clic en Spanish o español. Gracias.
Thank you. Can we please start with an attendance roll call from Vera Morales, Executive Assistant?
Yes, Student Board Member Bancole,
Present.
Trustee Water,
Present.
Trustee Reiser,
Present.
Trustee Shu,
Present.
Trustee Gracia,
Present.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Present.
Trustee Hart,
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Present.
quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight for our NVUSD board meeting. First, E1, report on closed session. Trustee Chu, do you have a report on closed session agenda items?
Yes, I do. With respect to item D1, student discipline. With respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Ed Code 35146 and 4891220, Government Code Section 49060 and 49078, and the Family Rights and Privacy Act, USC Section 1232G, Student Matters. A, expulsions. The board recommends the expulsion for student 03212024A.
Move to approve.
Second.
Trustee Gracia made a motion. Trustee Hart seconded it. So we need a roll call vote.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Hart,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And item D2A, personnel. In closed session, the board took action to approve the following staff recommendation effective the 22-24-2025 school year. Karen Hatton to the position of principal at American Canyon High School.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations. We want to welcome Ms. Karen Hatton to the NVUSD management team. We're so excited that she's here this evening to hear about her appointment in person. We're going to invite her here to the podium so she could say a few words to address the school board. Welcome, Ms. Hatton. Welcome back, actually, Ms. Hatton.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, President Water, Dr. Musetti, and esteemed board members. It feels, I'm humbled, I'm full of joy. I feel that it's really fitting and right at this point in my career to come back to this district. The work that you are all doing as a management team and a board to innovate and to push equity forward for students is unparalleled, and it's exciting, and I'm humbled and honored to be a part of that work. I began my career in American Canyon. I've said this throughout my interview process. It was the community that really was the architect of my foundation as an educator, and as a mother, a parent, a new wife. And so I'm just thrilled to come back full circle to this community and serve the community. I want to thank my family for always believing that in my dream to get back here. And I, commit to you the relentless pursuit of equity and access for all students. So I think that's it. Thank you for bringing me back home. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be really miss you, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations, Ms. Hatton.
And I have one more item. D7, with respect to items related to existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9. C, the board approved a settlement agreement to resolve a student's educational claims. And that concludes the report.
Thank you, Trustee Chu. And now E2 will do the flag salute, and let's ask Karen Hatton to lead us in the flag salute.
Putting you to work already.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, E3 announcement. This meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archived video can be referenced on the district's webpage at nvusd.org. The process for public comment can also be found on the district's webpage. And now E4, approval of agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Trustee Gracia and seconded by Trustee Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And E5, approval of minutes. Let's see. And it said that the board meeting March 7th minutes will be provided at the next regular meeting. So, okay, so E6, recognition of visitors and employee organizations. Dr. Massetti, do we have any visitors in attendance? I see at least one more principal out there.
We do. We see Principal Noreen Montgomery is here this evening. Welcome, Ms. Montgomery, so thank you for being here. I also, I don't see, typically our labor leaders join us, but they are not here this evening, so thank you so much. But I also see some of our custodial staff who's here, so I want to welcome them this evening, and thank you for their attendance at the board meeting. This is the second time this week, so thanks so much for being here. Gracias.
Okay, and next, my favorite part of the meeting is recognition of Students of the Month. Valley Oak High School, will Principal Cisneros please present the Students of the Month for Valley Oak High School? And this will be by way of Zoom.
Yes, well, good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Good evening, Dr. Massetti, Board of Trustees, and esteemed guests, and anyone that's watching on Zoom. It's wonderful to be here. I have the privilege of introducing two students to you today. Unfortunately, your first student, Dominic Garcia Gomez, may be on Zoom, but he was a little shy to join us today. So on behalf of Dominic and his family, thank you so much for this incredible recognition by the Board of Trustees and the Napa Valley Education Foundation. His teachers share with me that he's just a really strong hard worker. He's quiet at what he does, but smiles at Mrs. Lovey's sarcastic humor. So That's always a kick. He always gets his work done at high levels. He works hard and cares about his grades and his learning. Ms. Taya says that it's not only an honor and a privilege to have Dominic in both the leadership class and mathematics. Dominic's performance in the leadership class is exemplary. He demonstrates exceptional leadership skills, including strong communication skills with his peers and ability to collaborate effectively with others. In addition to that, he excels in math. His aptitude for the subject is evident and consistently with high grades and his willingness to tackle challenging concepts. The only downside to him is that he actually is a Raiders fan. So I don't know about that, but I know that his future plans is to become a welder. And probably part of that would be a big collection of classic cars because he truly enjoys working on some of the classic cars. So that's Dominic Garcia. Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to present him to you tonight. For February,
Thank you.
Our February student of the month is none other than Wesley Revolario Martinez. Wesley is a remarkable student. Despite facing challenges as an immigrant from Guatemala, Wesley has demonstrated just remarkable resilience and determination. She is quickly adapted to the new school environment here at Valley Oak High School, excelling academically with stellar grades in her classes and especially in Math 1 and physical education. And history too. She's just she truly enjoys what she does. Beyond her academic achievements, she's kind. Wesley's kindness, compassion, and maturity make her a standout and admired by her peers and teachers alike. Her ability to overcome obstacles with grace and perseverance is truly admirable. Wesley is undoubtedly deserving of her recognition tonight for her achievements and contributions to Napa Valley Unified School District and also to Valley Oak High School. She's a young lady that works hard at learning English, and she's constantly translating the questions from teachers, answering in Spanish, and then translating back in English with the support of some of our instructional aides in the class. Her interest is to become a chef, and so I believe at this time, Wesley, I believe she's online, and she's going to share her speech in Spanish. And I can read it in English if the board so desires. So, Wesley, ¿puedes prender tu Zoom para compartir tu discurso esta noche?
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre
Buenas
es
tardes.
Wesley Revolorio. Nací en Guatemala y dejé mi país a los 13 años para buscar un mejor futuro en Estados Unidos. Estoy tan agradecida con mis padres porque ellos me motivaron a asistir a la escuela. Actualmente soy un estudiante de último año en Valley Oak. Esta escuela me gustó mucho desde el primer día que llegué porque era algo diferente a lo que estaba acostumbrada a mi otra escuela, que era Napa High School. La escuela Valley Oak me gusta porque tienen clases que me gustan, como por ejemplo tienen arte digital. A mí me gusta mucho el arte, disfruto mucho trabajando en actividades como las de mi clase de arte digital. Me gustaría que supieran que me gusta ser amiga de la gente, pero no hablo mucho porque soy muy tímida y muy callada. Cuando me siento segura con las personas, hablo mucho. Mis planes después de la escuela son ir al colegio porque quiero ser chef. Me gustaría poder estudiar gastronomía porque me gusta cocinar o inventar recetas. Mi intención es seguir aprendiendo más sobre gastronomía porque amplia tu conocimiento sobre la cultura de varios países. Desde una perspectiva culinaria, ser capaz de utilizar mi educación y todo lo que comprendo es una forma en la que siento que no solo puedo beneficiarme, sino también retribuir a mi comunidad que me ayudó a lograr mis objetivos. Y en términos de mi contribución voluntaria, he ayudado a mi familia como a cuidar a mis hermanos. También me he ofrecido como voluntaria para cuidar a una anciana con mi madre. Estoy tan agradecida con la escuela Valley Oak por darme la oportunidad de compartirles un poco de mi vida. Y gracias a Miss Vero por siempre ayudarme en cada clase. Recuerden, estudiantes, nunca se den por vencidos porque todo lo que se propongan lo puedes lograr. Solo es cuestión de que le eches muchas ganas y con la ayuda de tus padres o de tu escuela lo puedes lograr. Muchas gracias a la mesa directiva, a la Fundación de Educación del Valle de Napa por este reconocimiento.
And now the English version for everyone, if needed, or was it translated, Dr. Massetti?
Yeah, yes, Maria, I did not know that Wesley was going to be presenting in Espanol. If she can send what she prepared, and I'd be happy to get it translated in written format and share that with the school board.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I have her write up. More than happy to do
Perfect. Go ahead and do that. We'll get it translated and I'll distribute it to the board. Thank you so much. And
Wonderful.
felicidades, Wesley.
All right, so moving on to the Napa Valley Independent Study Student of the Month, I also have the unique pleasure of introducing our first student. I believe Isaac Marias is on Zoom tonight. And on behalf of Ms. Wilson, his teacher that oversees his academic program, she says that from the first meeting in the fall, Isaac has always been has shown a mature attitude both in class and in the community. He's confident and goal-driven. He has been steadfast in his studies and will be graduating early this year. He is a leader in the classroom and inspires others to do their personal best. Aside from strong academics, he has been able to work at the American Canyon Chamber of Commerce and recently started in the Sheriff's Explorer program. I admire his tenacity and truly believe that he will accomplish his goal of being a pilot. Congratulations, Isaac, on being nominated for Student of the Month. So without further ado, Isaac Marias, can you please turn on your microphone and share a little bit with us?
Hello, good evening, everybody. To start, I would just like to thank the NVUSD board and the Napa Valley Education Foundation for giving me the opportunity to receive this award. I would also like to thank my parents for supporting me through my journeys at Napa Valley Independent Studies, and would also love to thank Ms. Wilson for being there for me and being a good teacher. I have attended American Canyon High School as well, and I would also like to give them a little thanks for helping me get to this opportunity in my life. I have taken lots of different classes in high school to get to where I'm at, such as drawing, government, history, photography, English, math, and many more. Some of the challenges that I have faced that brought me to NVIS is the fact that I was struggling with a classroom learning environment and I just needed more one-on-one learning. I've done some community service, including volunteering for some events in the city of American Canyon and just different events with the Chamber of Commerce before I was an employee. After high school, I would like to go to a flight school to learn to be a commercial airline pilot. For this, I don't need to go to college, but I would probably end up going to a feeder program that will feed me to an airline. The main things that I am proud of at NVIS are getting this award because this is a big accomplishment to me and my ability to complete all my work when it's due. I would like to thank you everyone here again for giving me the opportunity to receive this award, and everyone have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Our student of the month for February, unfortunately, is not able to be here. They're on vacation at this time. But he sends, on behalf of his family, they send their heartfelt appreciation for this recognition to both the Board of Trustees and Education Foundation. Ms. Lucero, his teacher that manages his program, mentioned that he joined independent studies at the end of last semester and has diligently worked hard to learn new material each week. His consistent efforts have led him to finish in high school and actually graduated this week. He looks forward to all of the great things ahead, and we cannot wait to see his contributions to this world. So congratulations to Oliver, and I'll make sure that I share any words that you may have on his behalf with him and his family. Again, thank you everyone for this wonderful opportunity to showcase and highlight our students in the alternative programs.
And thank you, Principal Cisneros. All right, G, public comment on non-agenda items. Trustee Chu, did we receive any public comment on non-agenda items via email?
There were no public comments on non-agenda items submitted via email before 8 a.m. this morning.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Massetti, do we have any online, anyone lined up online?
Do we have anyone online, Ms. Green?
There is no public comment.
In person.
Okay, so it looks like we have one in-person commenter, and that is Nancy LaFortune. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Good evening.
Submitted question. Should I, you actually have can't hear me?
Let me help you.
It's green now. All right. Yeah. Start over. I submitted a question, and do you need me to reiterate the question, ask it again? It's, I didn't keep.
Oh, on the back. We didn't see it.
Oh, I wasn't sure. Okay. Yeah. And I have two more.
Yeah, so it's public comment, so according to meeting protocol, we don't go back and forth. So this is where you would just provide comment. If you have a question of sorts, you could provide it written and we could email you back. But this is your opportunity of 3 minutes to provide public comment.
Okay, well, I'll just speak on the postcard that I got in the mail today regarding the bond measure that you're hopeful of proposing. And I was, of course, concerned as a grandparent with children at Northwood Elementary that it indicates that some of the funding generated from the bond measure would be used to provide things like smoke detectors and sprinklers. And so obviously I'm concerned that is there a potential that some of the facilities within the big network of your district are without those safety precautions? And that's a rhetorical question that would certainly, serve to. And part of my question about proposed litigation and where the funding would come from asks the question that I, as a citizen who pays taxes in the community, am concerned that floating a bond measure with proposing costly litigation, is it a good look? That's really just to sum up where I'm here tonight. All right, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? No. Okay, so now we are moving to reports, and we can start with the student board representative and then work down.
Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. And to begin my report, earlier this week on the 19th, I attended an LCAP Student Advisory Council meeting where middle and high schoolers from our district gathered to build on the work we have been doing this past year. During this meeting, students split up into their respective groups to build upon the work that was done in the previous meeting. The groups consisted of 9th grade transition, where students and principals began planning for an event that will hopefully take place later this spring, where high school students will have the opportunity to attend an 8th grade advisory class. During this, the high schoolers will present to the middle school students to prepare and better inform them about life when they enter high school. The next group focused on future visioning, and they are currently planning a future fair, which is set to be an interactive day-long activity filled with presentations and guest speakers aimed at showcasing to middle and high schoolers the vast post-secondary opportunities that are available to them. The final group, aimed at relationship building between students and teachers, is working to craft a way for students to fill out a form to provide feedback to staff to foster a better sense of communication and understanding between the two. In this meeting, we also reviewed data from the past 3 years and looked at test scores. Questions around what we are currently doing as a district and what we could be doing better were asked to gain perspective on what students think and drive meaningful conversations during the meeting. Later that evening, I was a part of something truly special, a special joint board meeting involving the Napa Valley Board of Education and the Napa Unified School Districts Board of Education. I presented in my capacity as a dual enrollment ambassador for American Canyon High School. I was privileged enough to share my passion for this role, explaining why it matters so much to our students and why it means the world to me personally. I spoke from the heart about why I believe dual enrollment offers such an incredible opportunity for our students. Being there as a student board representative was eye-opening. I learned about the roots of dual enrollment, its impact on students today, and where it is headed in the future. It was an unforgettable experience, feeling like a part of history and contributing to a partnership that is shaping the future for all of my fellow students. Next, currently at American Canyon High School, Women's History Month has been in full force. We decorated our bulletin board with influential women both inside and out of our Napa Valley community. Our art classes pay tribute to the women in our lives by writing letters. And on March 19th, I assisted the leadership class in selling tulips as a symbol of honor and respect to women everywhere. As an advanced drama student and head stage manager for American Canyon High School's Legally Blonde production, the drama students have been hard at work to make this show come to life. With only a month away from opening night, things are coming together very well. Next, at Napa High, students are currently partaking in a movie night week where each class has an opportunity to show a movie in the gymnasium and the entire class is able to attend. This serves as an incredible opportunity for students to bond. On top of that, at Napa High this week, students were able to learn about an outstanding opportunity called Explorer Post 911, which trains young adults ages 15 to 21 for a promising future in fire services. The career and future exploration continues at New Tech High School, where each class is currently participating in college trips. All the classes are able to tour various colleges and learn about them during these field trips. Lastly, at Vintage High, students are currently gearing up to make the end of senior year memorable with movie nights, trips, senior sunsets, and more. The students at Vintage also have a blood drive coming up in 2 weeks. They are advertising to the student body as a way to foster a sense of service and give back to their community. That concludes my report. Thank you.
I always go after the student board rep. It's always so much more fun to have our student board rep go.
You want to end the meeting there?
Yes, we just ended right here. I agree in regards to an event that just really happened this week, which feels like last week, where the NVUSD and the Napa Valley College elected bodies were in this room to discuss our dual work and dual enrollment, just like our student board rep mentioned. And so I just want to continue to reflect on that. And I'm going to have some bragging rights this weekend as I meet other elected officials and their other capacities to say, like, have you done something like this before? Because there's nothing like not only discussing the important items that impact our community, but how are we continuing to work collectively and trying to bring the very difficult, complex systems that we have to work in order to collectively move our community forward, because it's all interconnected and it's connected by people. So always appreciate that. This morning, very timely, because it's going to be on our agenda later, so I'm just going to not comment too much, but I got to tour the Napa High School. Assistant Principal Dennis took me to the Ethnic Studies course. And we'll hear the presentation by Ms. Hurtado, who's here tonight, and then which I was at part of the Ethnic Studies class, and then quickly went over to the H building with Ms. Mulligan's in the health education class. So I'll just end my comments there and add to that once we have the presentation later today. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's never as fun and exciting as a student board report, but I was not here for the first board meeting in March. I was out sick, so I'm going to go all the way back into February and kind of catch up on some of the stuff that's been going on. Hopefully I've captured everything. We did have a board advisory curriculum and student support committee meeting back on the 14th of February. The next day, we did a special board meeting for the superintendent midterm evaluation. That Saturday, we did a special meeting for the board self-evaluation. On the 26th, we had a preview of the draft portraits and core values. Also that evening of the 26th, we had another special board meeting. On Saturday, the 2nd of March, I was able to attend, along with my son, for a portion of the day, and many of the trustees up here as well, the Northern California Percussion Alliance competition at American Canyon High School, which was very cool. My son actually competed a couple years ago there. It was a long day, but it was super fun and exciting to see all the schools in the area, including Canyon High School, compete. On March 5th, I attended via Zoom the NCOE board meeting. On the 16th, here at the district offices, I was able to come and check out the Strategic Visioning Community installation and wanted to say congratulations to Julie Bordes and her team. It was really, really cool to see, and I hope they got a lot of people that came through, but it was nice to be able to come and check that out. And then, as was mentioned already, the joint meeting we had earlier this week with Napa Valley College to review the dual enrollment partnership. I'm excited to see where that goes, and I hope that we can set some precedents in the state in terms of how those relationships are formed and break some new ground there and have some amazing numbers to share with the community very soon. Yesterday morning, I got to, on a personal note, attend my daughter at Pueblo Vista, her March Assemblea. She was awarded the Student of the Month. She's only got one more year left at elementary school, and she's my youngest of 4, so I've got to like suck up all the elementary school fun while I can. So that was really cool to see all the cute little voices, and they do verbujas and they do slant, and it's really cute. And to see Helen, the principal, be able to keep all those kids under control and engaged in an assembly is no small feat. So congrats to her. I do have a statement that I'd like to take the opportunity to read into the record. And it goes like this. In faithfully discharging my duties to serve the Napa Valley community, I've discovered that a series of staff-initiated contracts could present a conflict of interest. While we believe an exception to the conflict of interest rules may apply and no published opinion or precedent our attorneys could find supports an interpretation to the contrary, the board and I take our ethical responsibilities quite seriously, and it is my desire to avoid even the perception of a potential ethics violation. Along with my fellow board members, I am committed to transparency and integrity in public service, and for that reason, I am providing the facts to the public at this time. The potential conflict concerns Pace Supply Corporation, a leading distributor in Napa of plumbing supplies, pipes, valves, fittings, and other tools. Pace has been a valued business partner with the district going back more than a decade. My husband has worked off and on for Pace Supply Corp. Since 2014. While my husband stopped working for Pace a few months before I joined the board, he was reemployed by Pace starting in June of 2023. Of note, members of the public will see on my Form 700 in January of 2022 that I fully disclosed this financial interest to the public. Pace Supply Corporation has not had any contracts come to the board for approval while I've been on the board, and I have not in any way participated in or influenced the maintenance department's decisions to make purchases of plumbing supplies that they need from time to time as part of their regular maintenance work in all of our schools. The district has simply continued to do business with Pace Supply Corporation in the same way that they have done for more than a decade. While neither my husband nor I get any financial benefit from any of these purchases, the purchases made since June of 2023 could nonetheless pose a conflict of interest under strict ethic rules because my husband is an employee of the company unless an exception applies. There is a remote interest exception that applies where a spouse was employed for at least 3 years with a vendor prior to a board member assuming their duties. In other words, if you read the language of the statute word for word, I seem to fall directly within this exception. What's difficult in our case is that we are not absolutely certain whether my husband's prior 8 years of employment count for the purposes of having this remote interest exception apply to our situation because of my husband's pause in working for Pace between September of 2022 and June of 2023. For this reason, I brought the potential issue to the attention of the district, and the district took immediate steps to address the issue by suspending its business with Pace. And we have submitted a self-report to the Fair Political Practices Commission and will cooperate with any inquiry they initiate and take any steps they deem appropriate to address any issues they find. That concludes my report.
Well, I want to thank Trustee Hart for her courageous steps in bringing this issue forward and for her full cooperation and support for the district's efforts to address it. I'm not surprised that Trustee Hart took the initiative in seeking out a legal inquiry as soon as she realized there was a problem, or that she agreed to take ownership of the issue, both in public and in a self-report to the State Enforcement Authority. A core value of our board is full transparency with our community partners, in particular with our families and staff. Maintaining the trust and confidence of the public in our school system is extremely important to all of us. So our commitment is that if we make a mistake, we should be the first to admit it, address it with full transparency, learn from it, and keep moving our operations forward in the best interests of our students and staff. We can only do that if each and every member of our board acts on those values and commitments, as Trustee Hart did. So again, I want to thank you, Juliana Hart, for your transparency and courage. Thank you. Trustee Jankowicz.
I attended the last show of Phantom of the Opera at Vintage High School. It was magnificent. It's pure joy. I attended the CSBA Legislative Action Week, 2 sessions, one with Senator Dodd and President Water, and the other with Assembly Member Cecilia Aguilar Curry and Trustee Gracia. With Senator Dodd, we discussed Senate Bill 1380. As a reminder, this bill would grant greater authority to local school district boards in considering charter school applications that would negatively impact financial stability. This bill, if passed, would clarify that local school districts can deny applications for new schools where a campus was closed within the last 5 years due to declining enrollment. It would also require county education boards to deny charter school applications that were previously denied by a local school board. With Assembly Member Aguilar Curry and her staff, we addressed the state facilities bond and went over and reviewed educational bills that are currently under consideration. I was then out of town for a week, but did experience 26 inches of snow in less than 10 hours as you all enjoyed 70-degree weather. I was disappointed that I missed the wellness conference hosted by Jennifer Stewart and the Napa Valley Education Foundation, but I'm looking forward to my fellow trustee reports. I did have the opportunity while I was gone to engage in numerous community calls with a wide range of topics, some of which include the importance of a bond measure, health and ethnic studies curriculum, conversations regarding the importance of our fiscal health and the impact of the current charter situation, and coincidentally, as we have a presentation tonight, the importance of our literary focus. I attended, along with my peers, as been discussed, the first of what we hope will be many joint board meetings with Napa Valley College. Both of the instructional teams presented on the expansion of the dual enrollment program, and our very own student board alternate and ambassador of the program here this evening gave an eloquent and impassioned overview of what the program meant to her and the power of dual enrollment. This is another educational option available to our secondary students to expand their learning opportunities. It's very good work. I would like to wish the American Canyon Academic Decathlon team good luck this weekend. Trustee Gracia is a director with CSBA. I'm a delegate, and part of the work is to be informed regarding CSBA advocacy, as well as general information that impacts school districts. So I just wanted to relay that Newsom's January budget deficit estimate was $58 billion, and as we remember from the first interim presentation by Assistant Superintendent Anguala, they are supporting much of the governor's proposal to reduce, the Senate is reducing it. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, you guys. The Senate is supporting much of the governor's proposal to reduce the non-Prop 98 general fund side of the budget. But the Senate's proposal does not address the state's $22-23 $8 billion in shortfall in the Prop 98 guarantee or the projected shortfall in the calculation of the current year in the 24-25 budget. Sacramento has a lot of work to do. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And Trustee Gracia.
Yes, so on the 14th, I attended Legislative Action Week with CSBA and spoke with Assembly Member Aguilar Curry. And then on the 15th, the CSBA Legislative Action Meeting. Then on the 16th, the community installation of the Visioning Project. And then on the 19th, the joint meeting with the Napa Valley Community College. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Chu.
So on March 13th, I attended a meeting with the City of American Canyon along with Trustee Reiser, which she'll report out later. On the 16th, I also attended the Strategic Visioning Community Installation here at the district office. On the 18th, I attended, I guess this week, every evening this week has been district activities. Special Education Community Advisory Committee meeting, which I will report out later. On the 19th, the joint board meeting with Napa Valley College. On the 20th, last night, I attended the Measure A2 Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting where the community members, always have good comments on the work. And they got also a tour of Canyon Oaks. And I think, in the community, they always think Canyon Oaks is the new school, but they don't realize that it's already 17 years old, right? And it needs some repairs already, just the amount of maintenance that might be needed. And I'm just very happy that, I think the bond will be covering that and a little bit of redesign of what that space can look like for the community and the students. And I think the CBOC was really pleasantly happy with, the design and the vision. And I just want to say also a very, big good luck to the academic decathlon team at ACHS as they go on to their state competition this week. I think they're there already today, and they'll start their competition tomorrow. And that concludes my report.
Trustee Reiser.
Thank you. On March 9th, Trustee Water and I attended together the Vintage High School production of the Phantom of the Opera, which was, as Trustee Jankowicz said, just joyful and impressive and powerful. March 13th was the State of American Canyon meeting that I'll report on. I'm going to go out of order because I want to end with my report on the Wellness Conference. On the 16th, attended the community installation, the sharing with our community members, our graduate adult and system portrait, almost final drafts, and concur with Trustee Hart. Congratulations to Director Bordez and the team for a wonderful event, sort of capping off a really amazing organic process. The 19th was the NVUSD Napa Valley College Joint Board meeting, which was historic and exciting and cool. This morning, Trustee Water and I met with a few representatives from the group Low Tech Napa that we heard from at a previous board meeting. They've shared their concerns about the use of technology, especially with the younger children in our system. And so we spent, I think, what was a really good productive hour or so conversing with them, hearing from them about their needs and what our next steps are, and, just reiterating to them that the district is a collaborative partner that really wants to be responsive to parent needs, and that engaged parents are the lifeblood of a healthy public school system. So we're grateful for their advocacy and their interest. And then going out of order, I did attend on the 14th and 15th the Napa Valley Wellness Conference for the second year, and it just is an incredibly impressive array of resources and offerings and expertise in the arena focusing on youth mental health. So many thanks to the Napa Valley Ed Foundation and Jennifer Stewart for putting it on again. It runs so smoothly and beautifully. The keynote speaker, Dr. Janet Taylor, I knew from Good Morning America with my coffee that she had amazingly valuable things to say. But I wanted to end to share with those of you who were not able to be there a few of the nuggets of gold from my favorite part of the conference, which was the second morning's general session called The Future is in Our Hands, Empowering Youth in Today's World. It was a student panel of NVUSD, but also Upper Valley students. And it was a panel discussion facilitated by 2 students as well. And so since you all didn't get to hear what they said, I just pulled out a few quotes to share. One that I thought was amazing was a student said, when adults ask you how things are going, don't sugarcoat it, because that just wastes time. So I thought that was amazing. So these are words of advice to parents, but I think it applies to educators too. Be patient and be present. A tree doesn't grow overnight, neither do we. We need time and help cultivating ourselves. Understand and support our autonomy. Let us make our own decisions and our own mistakes. Adults think they're always right. They aren't always right. Please trust us and have an open mind. Listen. Don't just hear, listen. Also, don't force us to talk to you if we're not ready. Give us time. Start early to create an environment where we can talk to you. Be there through our awkward phases. While it's important to uphold traditional values, your child is growing up in an ever-changing world. Be willing to change and grow with them. There were some students who called out, and particularly Clarence Memorel, who runs the Flag Filipino Youth Group at American Canyon High School, that were really beautiful testimonies to the way he's positively impacted their lives. And I'll end with something that a trans student who was on the panel said, which hurt my heart, but I think it's important for us to remember. They said, there's a lot of talk about our generation is woke, and we get it, and the older generation doesn't get it. And I'm here to tell you, from my perspective in the LGBTQ community, it's still rough out here for us. So I share that to remind us that we have a lot of work to do, continuing to build our culture of acceptance, inclusion, and belonging. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Reiser. Well, let's see. I went on Friday the 8th to our professional development day down in American Canyon, where I stepped outside my comfort zone and actually attended a couple of math workshops. And okay, hands up over there, everybody who worked on it. We had a late school board meeting, come on, and yeah, that's right, thank you. Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, Directors Knox and Manning and Reddy, thank you so much for I saw so many people there. People enjoyed it. I mean, there were over 1,000 people there. Yeah, and gosh, and that was after attending our board meeting, so thank you so much. And I learned some math too. And everyone seemed to be enjoying it. And I was really tickled at how the guardians of the lunch table would not let me have my lunch early. And then somebody, I could not pull rank. And then I guess I didn't look hungry, and I didn't look like I needed it, maybe. And then but then to keep me from crying, they showed me the bulletin board with distinguished women of the Napa County for Napa Women's History, and someone got a picture of me, I do not know how, a candid picture in front of my bookcase. And I don't know where that picture came from, where they found it, but it's definitely me. And a lot of other local people there, so that was fun, and it made me stop crying. And then the next night, I went to see Phantom of the Opera with Trustee Reiser, and everything you heard about it is true, absolutely extraordinary, and my goodness, that Camden Gilgallen can certainly sing and act. And then, let's see, the next day on the, hang on, this is handwritten. On the 12th, the pre-meeting for the Napa Valley College joint meeting. And then I also had a meeting with Senator Dodd. It was a Zoom meeting, legislation week, where we thanked him for his help, and that I was with Trustee Jankowicz. And then on the 13th, I too went to the wellness conference, and it was wonderful, and the keynote speaker led us off with lots of literary references, so that made me feel, like I belonged. And I also attended the Latino leadership luncheon up in North Napa. And then I think it was the 15th, I went to see Narnia put on by the Napa Drama Club, and I realized I had not seen that play in 22 years since Napa High put it on. And on the 16th, last Saturday, I attended the strategic visioning. Thank you so much for putting that on. It was fascinating and, again, an organic process. On the 19th, I attended the retired teachers luncheon because Dr. Powell was speaking, and he mentioned our joint effort, that he said that we were having the first ever meeting of the Napa Valley College Board and our board, and I can't believe we've never met before. I mean, we've been around for a long time, haven't we? And we've never once had a joint meeting, so I'm looking forward to this partnership. And indeed, that night we had a very successful meeting. Thank you for the presentations. And let's see, yesterday I had my normal meeting with the superintendent so I can run a meeting effectively. And yes, had a meeting with some interested parents this morning, which Trustee Reiser told you about. And I also ran around over the last 2 days visiting high schools, delivering the county's voter registration posters where you can register with a QR code in your phone. So that ends my report. Board representatives report, Special Ed Community Advisory Committee.
Yes, we met on Monday night, and we got a presentation from Beth Foraker, who is one of the directors of the UC Davis Redwood Seed Scholars Program. And it was a really inspirational program that we heard because it was all about how do we support students with intellectual disabilities after they graduate from high school. And this program is just amazing. They were able to stitch together funding, paid for a college experience for these kids, and they got to take college classes. They got to learn how to be more independent. They got to live in the dorms, and they got jobs. So how inspirational is that? And we also did listen to a student that actually got into the program from Napa. So I'm really inspired by that, and I'm hoping that this type of program will expand so we can really support all of our students and be truly inclusive. And that concludes that report.
Thank you. And City of American Canyon liaison reps, Lisa Chu, Eve Reiser.
Yes, we met and had a productive sort of updating meeting. We were able to sort of bring the elected officials, the two city council members and the city manager up to date on our strategic visioning process. And the planning progress, how that went, and invite them to our community installation event. We sort of talked about enrollment trends in American Canyon and Napa, the way in which declining enrollment is different in American Canyon and yet still a present force that we are contending with. Talked about our Measure A2 bond, as Trustee Chu talked about the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee. Gave them some updates about the implementation of Measure A2, as we now have the funds from the voters of American Canyon to address the facilities needs of those 5 campuses. And then we also gave them some other updates about matters that the district is involved in, including an update about Senator Dodd's proposed legislation and the context surrounding that and why we are co-sponsoring that bill. And that concludes that report.
Thank you. City of Napa liaison representatives, trustees Gonzalez, Morris, Hart, and Jankowicz.
You reviewed that last time.
Okay. And Town of Yountville liaison reps, David Gracia, Robin Jankowicz.
We did not meet.
Superintendent and executive staff.
Great, thank you, President Water. Good evening, NVUSD Board of Education and Community. I want to thank the trustees, staff, and community members who joined us for the strategic visioning community installation that's been mentioned by several of the board members that occurred this past weekend. It was a joyful event where we were able to view the benefits of all the hard work accomplished by our guiding coalition team that's been working since last September. NVUSD's community installation allowed us to gather and honor our journey and dream about our future. Guests, including community members, students, staff, were welcomed at the district office to enjoy tasty refreshments and a gallery walk showcasing NVUSD's recent achievements. The event also offered a unique opportunity to review and share thoughts on the final draft of NVUSD's strategic vision. This celebration was a testament to our collective efforts and the bright path ahead. Again, thank you to everyone who participated and shared their input, making this event a memorable milestone in our district story. Additionally, I'd like to thank the staff members who've begun the strategic planning process. Over the next 8 weeks, about 25 staff members will use the visioning tools to create the district's strategic action plan, which will serve as our tactical roadmap for the next 3 to 5 years. Thank you to Julie Bordez and all of the core team members who've played a critical role in getting this important work done. We are excited about bringing it all forward to the school board for adoption in June. I also want to share the awe that I experienced this morning at Bel Air Elementary School. As many of you know, Bel Air Elementary is our International Baccalaureate Elementary Magnet Program. Today, the upper grade students had an exhibition of learning. Director Matt Manning strategically held the elementary principals meeting there, so it was fantastic to be part of the audience along many of our administrators, but most importantly, it took me a long time to find parking because there were so many Bel Air parents that were there listening to the students do their presentations. I was just floored. I listened to several of the presentations, and our students at Bel Air really demonstrated the benefits of the IB curriculum and program. Every presentation demonstrated critical thinking, effective oral and written communication, an ability to inquire and conduct research at such a young age, and a ton of creativity. Shout out to the Bel Air staff, all the teachers who prepared their students for this exhibition of learning, and I want to commend the leadership of Principal Kim Title. I also want to take a moment, it's been mentioned by many of the trustees, but it was historic, so I want to congratulate Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings and Director Monica Reddy and Student Trustee Bankole, along with all of the Napa Valley College staff who delivered that thorough and comprehensive presentation on our newly defined partnership with the community college on Tuesday evening. As we discussed on Tuesday evening, the work NVUSD and Napa Valley College staff are collaboratively implementing right now will do the following. It will increase access to a college degree in our community for young people. It will dramatically decrease educational costs for students and their families. The partnership will ensure smoother transitions to the post-secondary environment for our students. It will also increase career preparedness and opportunities for students. And most importantly, it really truly has the deep potential of closing opportunity gaps and transforming lives. I know that Dr. Powell, the president, superintendent of the college, and I are very excited about the potential of being a statewide model for this specific work. And I really want to thank Vera Morales, Executive Assistant Vera Morales, and Dr. Powell's assistant, Catherine Kittle. You have no idea how much attention to detail is required when two agencies, institutions, the college and ourselves, have to coordinate the logistics of 14 trustees coming together to have a joint board meeting. And they did an extraordinary job that led to a flawless execution of the board meeting on Tuesday evening. So I wanted to make sure that both Ms. Morales and Ms. Kittle were recognized for all of their weeks of work leading up to Tuesday night. With that, I'm going to turn my attention to the assistant superintendents who will provide reports on the work that's happening in their respective divisions. We'll begin with Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees the Human Resources Division.
Thank you. Good evening, President Water, Board of Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and Student Board Representative Bankole. Since our last board meeting, the HR office has been busy confirming vacancies, monitoring internal transfer movement, and posting positions. EdJoin activity has exploded, and we have begun hiring back temporary social workers and teachers. It's always nice to be able to ensure a place in NVUSD for staff who've done an outstanding job over the course of their one-year contract with us, and to be able to bring them back for another year, sometimes as a temporary, but even better when we can bring them back in a permanent position. I want to thank our principals at all levels for completing their transfer interviews in record time, thus allowing us to now go full speed ahead into recruiting outside candidates. Next week, while school sites power down for spring break, HR will continue working on vacancies for certificated and classified positions. We'll be open Monday through Thursday and then enjoy a day off on Friday with the rest of the district. We hope all students and staff have a restful and joyful spring break and return ready for the last big push to the end of the school year. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson, who oversees the Operational Services Division.
Good evening, President Water, NVUSD Board of Education Trustees, Dr. Musetti, Student Board Representative Bencole, and members of the NVUSD community. It's always a pleasure to provide each of you with an update on operational services. The entire operations team has been busy planning for all the summer school programs happening during the months of June and July this summer. 11 different programs have been scheduled throughout the district, happening on approximately 12 different school sites. And I say 12 different because that's we continue to add. Thank you, instruction. I want to acknowledge the high level of collaboration between the directors that comprise the operational services team, along with the instructional and special education departments and directors, to ensure all summer school programs are successful this upcoming summer. Speaking of planning, the operations leadership team met earlier today, discussed planning for the first half of the 24-25 school year. This is the taskmaster and Mike Pearson. Collectively, the team divided up by department to identify milestones that apply to each department and then drill down on specifics for each identified area. This type of planning is crucial in order to always have a successful opening to any school year. 2 employees in the operations department have been recently awarded the Napa County Classified Employee of the Year. So we did our own school district one, and several moved on or went on, and 2 of them have been acknowledged. From the transportation department, Mike Tyler, who drives a school bus, has been acknowledged, while from the maintenance and grounds department, Tico Lara, who is the district glazer and lead worker, has been selected. Both individuals can now apply to be considered for the state classified employee of the year. So congratulations to both employees. The transportation team, the transportation rodeo team, travels this weekend to San Bernardino. Trustee Grossi, I can see you're excited, to participate in the state bus rodeo, or rodeo, wishing the team of Justin Binion, Kadeem Fortune, Andres Oropeza, Myron Guzman, and Jason Gallo the best of luck in the competition. The maintenance and grounds team welcomed 2 student interns from New Tech High School recently. The students started in the HVC department, and after approximately 4 to 6 weeks, the students are now respectively either in the carpentry or general maintenance department. And in fact, I witnessed firsthand today one of the interns helping out with the replacement and painting of a ball wall at Alta Heights Elementary School. And then to conclude, the summer 24 construction will be extremely busy. At the April 25th board meeting, there will be a more in-depth facility update, but I want to highlight tonight all the projects that will be completed over the summer of 2024. I'm not sure this is a good thing. Maybe it is a good thing I'm leaving, but hang on to your seat. Canyon Oaks Elementary School, outdoor learning areas and a new shade structure. American Canyon High School, a new coat of paint. Alta Heights Elementary School, interior modernization. Portable relocation for TK expansion at Canyon Oaks, Napa Junction, Browns Valley. TK classroom modernization and new TK furniture at 11 different classrooms throughout 11 different sites. The Vintage Farm, and this is a shout out for our groundbreaking ceremony on April 15th. Northwood Elementary shade structure will have carpeting at various classrooms. This is handled through our operations department. We'll be replacing portable siding on various portables throughout the school district. This happens through maintenance. There'll be fencing happening at American Canyon Middle School, Browns Valley, West Park, and Vichy. Portable removal at Vintage, Silverado Middle School emergency roof repair, and Browns Valley roof. And I think I got them all. Thank you, and that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings, who oversees the Instructional Services Division.
Good evening, President Water, NVUSD Board Trustees, Dr. Musetti, Student Board Representative Bencole, and the NVUSD community. I will try my best to keep my staff report brief, as the Instructional Division has 2 presentations later on this evening, one on graduation requirements and another one, an update on our early literacy program. And before I launch into the rest of my report, I do want to apologize, President Water, for you not receiving lunch. I will make sure in October, the next PD day, that you get your lunch. So I do apologize. I also want to thank you, Student Board Representative Bencole, for providing a brilliant and comprehensive summary of the LCAP Student Advisory Committee's work this past week. So thank you so much for sharing that with the board and the community. And as Trustee Reiser mentioned, the 5th Annual Napa Valley Wellness Conference organized by the Napa Valley Education Foundation was held last Thursday and Friday. The Wellness Conference showcased NVUSD as a trailblazer in the area of school-based wellness programming. Over 75 conference attendees from across California and neighboring states participated in guided tours at Vintage High School. They observed our wellness centers facilitated by our school social workers, wellness intervention counselors, the on-the-move youth outreach coordinators, and the Vintage High School principal, Jessica Hutchinson. NVUSD continues to shine as a model for wellness programming statewide and beyond. As was mentioned earlier, on March 8th, over 1,000 certificated and classified staff from across the district attended our Spring Professional Learning Day at American Canyon High School. The day was focused on centering students at the heart of the work that we do, and schools began with conducting an exploration of our multilingual learner student experience. They looked at LPAC data, and then they concluded the morning session by dedicating their learning for the day to a specific student. And since pictures are worth 1,000 words, we have prepared a brief slideshow that was curated by our own exceptional communications director, Chris Reddy, that really captures the day, and we'd like to show it. I just want you to note that there were smiles at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And I do want to take a moment to thank our incredible instructional division support staff. It's a tremendous lift for them on that day, and they worked so tirelessly and just wanted to make sure that everyone had a positive experience, and I believe that that's what happened, so I want to thank them. And then lastly, we have 2 family education opportunities coming up, with both of them being held at the district auditorium. On Monday, April 8th at 6 o'clock, there will be a presentation on fentanyl awareness. And then on Wednesday, April 17th at 6:30, there will be a collaborative presentation with the Napa Police Department on gang prevention. So I wanted people to be aware and knowledgeable about those 2 things. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Andrew Jennings. Lastly, we have Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala, who oversees the Business Services Division.
Thank you for the opportunity to update the board and the community. The technology team is busy supporting students and staff with all their tech needs, whether it is for state testing, extended learning programs, or everyday instruction. We aim to make sure all of our district devices and infrastructure are working properly, enabling the community to go about their days focused on our robust instructional programs and goals. On the infrastructure front, we are progressing through the construction phase of our extensive Wi-Fi upgrade project, installing new network cabling across the district that will eventually enable us to provide our users with faster, more reliable wireless access throughout the school day. We continue to focus our efforts on cybersecurity, implementing email security software, and training aimed at protecting all of our users from common email-based scams and schemes. Look for user interface improvements in your district Gmail, such as warning banners and attachment scanning, which are key components of the new software and helps create a more robust, cyber-secure environment for all of us. Several of our department members have been engaged in the district strategic visioning process this school year, and yesterday we were very excited to take the next step into strategic planning, along with various other district staff members. While the process is not finished, we are happy to be trending towards several technology-focused long-term initiatives that will be sure to serve the entire district well for years to come. PD Day was a huge success with all of our ed tech sessions. Teachers were so excited about using tech tools in the classroom. Our ed tech team already had been visiting classrooms showing off how to use these tools. We also had a great turnout for our classified staff boot camp that our department led, and look forward to providing more trainings in the future. The enrollment team continues to support families register for the current year and the 24-25 school year. As registrations for the upcoming year are steadily increasing, we are approaching our enrollment projections for all schools and grade levels. Last week, the enrollment team and the preschool team gathered for a breakfast meeting to enhance interdepartmental collaboration. During the meeting, the teams participated in an Arbinger protocol called Meet to Learn, which aimed to improve understanding of each team member's roles and responsibilities. Through this process, participants gained insights into the challenges encountered by both departments and identified ways to enhance the overall experience for parents and preschool students. The data and assessment team is gearing up to support schools with the upcoming CASP testing. Students will test through April and May, and we are looking forward to a smooth testing season. The team is also working with the enrollment department to prepare for an annual data confirmation process where families confirm important data like emergency contact information and provide us with important income information which directly impacts funding to the school district. The business services team is working on budget development for the 24-25 school year. Additionally, the auditors will be visiting the week of April 15th to begin the 23-24 audit. We are also happy to announce that we'll be replacing the roofs at Browns Valley Elementary School this summer, and the E-wing roof and HVAC at Silverado. Funds for these projects will come from the future sale of Yountville Elementary School. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Manguala, and that concludes the executive reports for the evening. I'm grateful Assistant Superintendent Dana Page brought up the spring break. I do want to wish everybody a happy, joyous, restful spring break next week. So thank you.
Thank you.
President Water.
Yes, well, you all have been working very hard the last few weeks. You do deserve a spring break. I was just felt tired listening to all the things we'd attended. Okay, and we didn't have to put them on. Okay, approval of consent agenda. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call vote unless discussion of items is requested by a board member or board members.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Hart. We need a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Bancole?
Aye.
Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, J, presentation and discussion items. 1, instructional services. A, high school graduation requirement update.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Trustees, President Water, Dr. Musetti. staff, and the larger community. Tonight we'll present an update on the new graduation requirements which will be implemented in the fall of 2024. First, I will provide the context and a brief overview because I know that we have heard some of the context of how we landed here this evening. The process started at the state level with the adoption of AB 101. Then next, it moved to the local level with the adoption of our board policy, and this will land in classrooms with the implementation of at the site level with graduation requirements. On October 8th, 2021, the state of California passed AB 101, which added the requirement that students must complete a one-semester ethnic studies course in order to graduate from California high schools. The addition of this course needed to be implemented with the class of 2029-2030 and needed to start in 25-26. There were 4 proposed options available to local education agencies, and NVUSD decided to move forward with that final option that's highlighted for you, which is a locally developed ethnic studies course adopted by the Board of Education. In addition to AB 101, when considering a standalone course, you have to consider pairing it with another course. And after review, we decided to move forward and recommend to you the standalone health education course. So in adopting a standalone health education course, and as we move through this pilot, tending to 2 very specific educational codes was important. And that first one is the California Healthy Youth Act, which requires that school districts throughout the state provide students with comprehensive sexual health education. And the newest one, which is Senate Bill 224, which I think speaks to the goals of our district, is around providing specific targeted support for students with mental health instruction. In spring of 2023, staff recommended and the board adopted those new graduation requirements. An ethnic studies course as a standalone paired with a health education course as a standalone semester course. The staff recommendation was to place that course in 9th grade, and we are moving forward with that current grade level. So what does this mean overall for our graduation requirements? As a reminder, we have incredibly rigorous graduation requirements because our graduation requirements afford students the opportunity to keep the door open as long as possible with the UC A to G requirements. The California state requirements, which as you see now include ethnic studies and health. And lastly, our local requirements, which afford students the opportunity to take electives to meet that requirement. Over the past 2 years, we've been hard at work, and I appreciate the team that's with me tonight, as well as the team that has been a part of multiple committees. First, it started with really learning about the requirements and what they meant overall, and what they meant for our community. Last year, we had the opportunity to provide updates to you and move forward with the adoption of new requirements. We met, as you'll hear later on in the presentation, with the Graduation Requirement Committee, the Ethnic Studies teachers and potential teachers that were designing the course, and the health education teachers that were designing the course, and engaged in that process over that year to develop the course and make a recommendation to the board, as well as start to look and analyze transcripts to see the implications that these courses might potentially have on students. Over this year, we have had the opportunity to pilot some of those courses throughout 9th and 12th grade. We've been in the monitoring process of those courses and engaging with our middle school community as of recently with the implementation of these courses for our rising 8th graders who are moving into 9th grade in the fall. And we look forward to implementing this with all of our 9th graders starting in 24-25. We are learning a lot from our pilot, and I appreciate our teachers who have implemented this curriculum. My partner in this work, Kelly Miller, who's just phenomenal, has been helping lead this work as well as Karen Fleming, who is not here tonight, who's been helping with health education. We've piloted across grade levels at 5 high schools with various models. They've had the opportunity to participate in professional learning and in-class coaching throughout this process from 2 experts recommended by the California School Boards Association and the California Department of Education. They have, after each unit or units, had the opportunity to come together with sub-release days to review those units and make revisions as they think about implementing those the following semester. And my partners in this work have been holding professional learning communities for the teachers to come together after school to listen and learn and share resources throughout the process. Those happen monthly for both health education and ethnic studies. One of our learnings, which you'll hear later tonight, is also making sure we align our growth development and sexual health curriculum with our middle schools and our elementary school, and I'm pleased and excited to have the opportunity to do that work with Director Manning. So with that, I will turn it over tonight to Kelly Miller, who's going to go through an overview of ethnic studies, where we're at, the progress we've made, and where we're going.
Thank you very much. I love telling this story. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm humbled and very proud to be working with the teachers who have been engaging in professional growth and personal growth alongside myself for the past 2 years as we have developed an ethnic studies course and piloted it. We've started small, and we've done that intentionally so that we can learn, grow, and steer this course to something that will be really, really strong when we scale up to all our 9th grade students next year. You all have heard this before, so I'll tell you briefly. We have 4 units of study in our ethnic studies class. The first is about identity, the second is land, the third is systems, the fourth is solidarity. These units are very closely aligned with what we see the California, the CDE ethnic studies course recommendations. There we go. I also want to reiterate that ethnic studies is not just a feel-good course, that it is an academic discipline. And because of that, there are certain topics and histories that it is important to study, and we are really, really stressing the importance of these stories while we are in our ethnic studies classes. There are 4 foundational disciplines. It's African American, Chicano or Latino, Native American, and Asian American and Pacific Islander studies. We are focusing on the histories, the cultures, and their struggles. And there's also flexibility, and I think this is really important, for deepening and augmenting for the local context. We are doing a locally designed curriculum, so that means that while we are studying these bigger pictures, we are also looking at our local community and the history of the communities where we live. There are 8 outcomes that are intended to be a result of ethnic studies, according to the CDE. So we surveyed students about a month ago because we wanted to see how are we doing with these, because we want this to be not only a class that they take, but a class that helps drive them towards these outcomes. I'd like to share with you the results of our survey with this in mind. This is why we're piloting a course, because we really want to learn from our students and from our teachers to see where our strengths are and where we need to grow. So we surveyed 80 students who had taken ethnic studies or health last fall, so the first semester of school. We had a pretty good representation from our different sites. And we asked them questions related to those key ethnic studies outcome. And if you just want a quick way to look at kind of like heady data, I would look to the green, look to the purple. If we're practicing appreciative inquiry, we're looking at what's working, what are we doing well. The green and the purples are those students who said, I agree, or I strongly agree. So the first was, I share a responsibility to address injustice in my community. We see that about half of our students walked away from ethnic studies feeling like, yeah, that is my responsibility. If we're looking again at those greens and those purples, I gained a new understanding of a broad range of ethnic groups, including African American, Chicano, Native American, and AAPI. We did ask students about their own personal identity and the histories of their own identities. You'll see that about half said, yeah, I learned more about my personal identity through this class. I learned more about where I'm from and how that influences my interactions with people who are different from me. We also asked students about learning about their classmates' identities. It is not just self-exploration, but it's knowing who else is in the room and who else is in my community. And we asked if they gained a new respect for their classmates and what they had been through. Gaining a new respect for people different from yourself and different from your family is an important aspect of this course. We saw that more than half of our students agreed with the statement. And this concept, I really want to point out because it's one that you will not encounter typically when you're looking at Common Core standards, but it is a significant part of ethnic studies. I learned more about how multiple identities such as sex, religion, class, ability or disability, age, sexual orientation, gender, citizenship, and socioeconomic status can influence how people are treated by others. We were so pleased to see how many of our students said, yeah, I did learn that in this class. One of our highest rated questions was, I learned more about social movements and how those impact us today. And I just have to say, Director Reddy and I got to go watch some of Ms. Hurtado's students presenting on this very topic at the end of last semester. all in Spanish. It was thrilling. I was also in the room when students at Vintage and Valley Oak were working on a similar project, studying the social movements that have been happening since about the 1960s to today, and what we see as a result of those social movements. And students were so engaged, they were so curious, and they were so excited to share what they learned. I think we see that a lot in the results of this survey question. Oh no, I'm trying to change slides. And it's not working. Thank you. You all are pros. Nicely done. I'm able to engage with conversations with people who are different from me. Overall, these questions will be asked once more at the end of the semester because we want to see how are we doing, how are we growing as teachers. As Director Reddy mentioned, we are meeting regularly to pause, look back at what we've just taught, share that with teachers, and make revisions, because we know that we are building a strong foundation for the teachers who will teach this course alongside our existing ethnic studies team next year. And I'm so proud to introduce you to Senora Hurtado, who has been teaching ethnic studies. This is now her second semester at Napa High teaching this course, and she's going to speak to the student and the staff experience.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start off by telling you that I became a teacher for 3 reasons. The first one is I wanted to give an impact in my community. I am a product of the Napa Valley Unified School District. Second, I wanted to teach at Napa High. And third, I wanted to one day be able to teach ethnic studies and teach other people that look like me the history of us. This experience has been amazing. From the first day when they said ethnic studies is finally gonna happen, I was super excited and I'm like, sign me up. These 2 ladies have been amazing in the support that they have given us, not only in the classroom, not only through our meetings monthly, but also through the opportunity for me to be able to grow as an educator, recently being able to go to CABE, the California Association of Bilingual Education, where I brought a bunch of exciting things back. The students in my courses learn ethnic studies in Spanish, or as much Spanish as I can, given that this is the first year that I teach it. And it has been amazing. These kids walk in, many, not knowing much about them, except maybe a couple of musical artists that they listen to on the weekends or after school. And to be able to come into the classroom and learn about their identity, learn what sets them apart, what makes them unique, and what makes them important has been so rewarding as a teacher. I wanted to mention, because I still have students from last semester that will come and be like, Mr. Hurtado, I want to come back. I want to come back to this class because I want to know more about X subject. One of them being Chavez Ravine, which is one that students have no idea. And I will be honest, I'm not a Dodgers fan, so that helps for me to explain this. But for those that don't know, Chavez Ravine was a predominantly Latino community, and they were pretty much stripped out of their homes for housing, and then ended up not, and now we have a Dodger Stadium instead. And so many students learned about this, and then they were like, oh my God, Mr. Hurtado, this reminds me of when we had to move because the rent went up in my apartments because they are making them more bougie, so my parents can't afford them. Or, oh my God, Mr. Hurtado, this reminds me of how we used to live in Guatemala or how we used to live in Mexico, where we were all a community. And I don't know, it's just been very, very cool to teach this class. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I wish and I hope that in the future we are able to offer more ethnic studies classes, such as literature, math, art, science. I can't wait for that day to come one day, and I thank you for your time.
The only thing that can follow a teacher like Senora Hurtado is some of her students and some of the students in our broader community in Napa Valley Unified. So I'll let them speak for themselves.
I would describe it as a class that teaches the side of history that most classes tend not to teach, and something more fun even.
I would describe the ethnic studies class as one that you will learn about different systems and how those systems affect people, such as the justice system and education, and how them can correlate to how a type of people, such as race or gender, could go through the world.
Pretty much learning about everything new that's like coming out, like different genders, different like races, different like parts of the world, like how even Napa was brought up. So it's pretty cool.
That we learn about basically, you know, just like not just gang related stuff, but basically how violence has an impact on communities and how, like, what we could do to change that and certain stuff like that.
Sí, algo que tenga que ver con el tema, puede ser, no tiene que ser super.
Something really interesting I learned about was about Chavez, is that, and it's about a group of workers that were kicked out of their homes to create the Dodger Stadium. That was really interesting because I did not know about it. Usually I really like history, but most of other videos about history don't really talk about situations like that. I mostly talk about bigger topics, and that was one that I was really interested about because I wouldn't hear about it anywhere else.
Well, right now we're learning about like Napa Valley's like grape and wine history, and I thought that was pretty like interesting because like that's literally what Napa's about, and just seeing like how it's all made is crazy.
We'd be walking the vineyards with my grandpa, Papa Lalo. He would always tell me cuentos. He would tell me about the vines and how special they were. What he taught me, I think, is the reason I have so much love and passion for what I do.
I just think it's interesting because it's a good way to, you know, like teach us history and English and just a lot of good things that we need to know about, you know, just the world and the world around us, our communities, people around us. It's just good information.
The class did meet my expectations because we did talk about cultures around the world, but we also learned more about the groups and organizations that were affected and impacted on the world.
So we are grateful to have the teachers that we have teaching ethnic studies this year. This year there are 5, and we look forward to growing that next year. Director Reddy.
I want to thank Rosalinda Hurtado for being here tonight, for teaching all day and then coming to the board meeting. We'll move into giving an overview of where we're at with our health education course. Just as a reminder, we have 6 units in health education. These align to the standards from the state of California. And so students move through learning about their personal and community health. As we work with our ethnic studies partners, one of the adaptations we've made is deciding if a student moves from ethnic studies to health, unit 1 might happen first or it might happen last, so that if students are learning about social movements in their community and ethnic studies, we would begin with that in health as a transition, and if not, we might begin with a different unit. So we're trying to see how these two pair together and build some connections for students across. They also learn about injury prevention, nutrition, mental, emotional, and social health, alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and growth, development, and sexual health. They're in order based off of, just as a reminder, they're in order based off of kind of the risks that students have to take in having these discussions, and those grow over time as they build community and comfort with their teacher and in their classroom. So before we get started with the health education survey, it looks a little bit different than the survey with ethnic studies, and that's because the health education is a skills-based course with content. And so the goal is really that students develop their content knowledge, and we want them to be able to transfer and apply those skills throughout their lives so that they are healthier, they're both mentally, physically, and that it also impacts their overall academics and future life. So as I review this data, you won't see the alignment to standards like you did with ethnic studies, because the questions really tap into are students able to transfer what they learn to skills that they can now apply. There is a smaller sample size because we had fewer health classes offered in the fall than we do currently. So some of our students are in health for the first time. And so as we implement this survey next at the end of this semester, we'll have some more data. So first of all, we wanted students to really assess on, are they able to make decisions that support a healthy lifestyle? Do they understand the impact of things like sleep and physical activity, healthy eating, and screen time? Similar to, as Kelly shared, to hone in on the data, you really want to look at the green and the purple to see how students are able to learn and apply some of those skills. Next, we looked at how are students seeing their body and decisions about their body. And so are they accepting of their body, and are they able to make healthy decisions about how their body is impacted physically, sexually, emotionally, and their mental well-being? So again, that strongly agree with that purple and green. We want to make sure that we look at prevention and intervention, and so learning ways to prevent and report dangerous situations. This could be bullying, sexual harassment, and abusive relationships. And an ever important skill in middle school and high school and beyond is learning how to deal with peer pressure in multiple areas, from drugs and alcohol to other activities. We also want to make sure that students can connect on campus, and we know we often see this in our California Healthy Kids survey, ensuring that students can get support from an adult or a school resource or a community resource. And so our teachers have been offering opportunities for some of our community partners to come into their classroom to provide some of those connections to resources in their community that they may not regularly have access to or know about. And then also thinking about that community well-being, and if COVID didn't teach us enough about this, we also have some of that in our curriculum. And so learning how to address the health and wellness in my school and my overall community, and that may be physical health, it may be mental health or social well-being. There are some quotes from students that you can see as it'll take a moment, and then we do not have a health teacher here tonight, but you'll get to hear from some of our students and see some action in the classroom. Our students did, I really appreciated in these surveys, and something that we're taking to heart and we'll put into action is they also had some feedback around how it's impacting them. One was able to connect it to a career. The other one that you can see, and we had a couple of these, they had the option to provide further information. So some of them did and some of them did not. And some of them had some great next steps that we can take. So we always value that feedback from our students. For example, we need to find a way to talk about these subjects more openly and have more of these resources available. So that's just one of those. We have quite a few quotes from students about how we can improve as adults, and we're excited to take those and bring those back to our teachers and share out how we can improve. So with that, you'll get to hear from some Vintage High students regarding their experience in health education.
I'd say it's definitely like a learning experience, and it definitely gets you knowing stuff that you probably didn't know about, and it does educate you very.
It was very informal. It gave you a different perspective on what you say and like how you think about how others might take something if you say something.
Right? But your assignment's not complete until you can connect. Connect the systems to the body part. What about how you smell? What about how your skin or your nails are gonna smell? Right?
I feel like the unit, when we learned about like smoking and like drinking and what it could do to your body and how it affects you like emotionally and physically, I thought that was a very like deep topic, and it really does show you like what it could do to you in your future and how it affects you.
Something that was valuable was like about how about bigger problems like drunk driving, drug abuse, and how it can affect you not only like right now but like forever in your life.
I think the class did meet my expectations because I got to learn like, and I got to see things like from a different perspective than my own. So I think that it was very well taught.
Yeah, it met my expectations because it was informal and taught me a lot about health and how there's not just the nutrition fact, but mental and just your overall well-being.
So we really appreciate our students taking this journey with us and choosing to be a part of the class and offer up their feedback throughout the process. As we turn to next steps for health education, we'll continue to review and refine our units throughout this. We're excited to onboard some new teachers later in April and early May and look at how we target academic vocabulary has come up as an area which I think as we think about our multilingual learners is really important and important for all students in this curriculum. And then revising expectations for rigor, really looking at are we aligning across the sites, and as we grow, is that continuing? And then continuing to refine, to connect learning to personal identity. You saw in some of the slides that in some of the feedback that's not that yet there, it's at about 50%. And so how do we really help students, especially in ethnic studies, connect to each other and to the students around them as they transition to a new school, a new environment? And so that's an area that we'll dive deeper into. And with that, we'll turn to the last part of our overview, and that's really about the implications of the graduation requirements and how we're transitioning. So in the spring of 2023, a graduation requirement committee was formed. And during that time, we spent a lot of time looking at transcripts and reviewing trends and patterns that we've seen as far as how students are earning credits, what courses they're enrolling in, when they're enrolling in those courses. What we learned is that there was quite a bit of variance in how that's happening across sites, and it actually led us to bringing in an expert to really look at how are we master scheduling, how are we supporting our counselors, and how is that happening consistently across sites as we not only work through the graduation requirements, but also register students across our schools. We were able to develop some sample four-year planning documents that you'll see throughout this and consider the implications as we moved into the 24-25 school year, and that includes both the implications for students and staff. In order to best support students in this transition, we really looked at what are the implications for ninth grade, and then we looked at what are the implications for that across various subgroups, and also what are the implications in supporting various programs that students find passion and connection in, or maybe a program that they're connected to TK-12, and for students who need additional support. So as you'll see, the ninth grade schedule with the new requirements has 4 required courses. There's English. Students take Math 1 and Math 2, depending on what they took in middle school, physical education, ethnic studies and health, and then they either have a required or a choice option for their 5th class, and then another choice option for their 6th class. For students who have requirements such as ELD and directed studies, that would be that 5th course offering with then the selection of one more choice option for them to take. You see some of the options that we typically encourage students to take in that 9th grade year, maybe CTE, Layla specific to Napa High, performing arts, a science option such as biology or an integrated science option in CTE, visual arts, or beginning their world language. One of the things that we do offer at our schools, especially as it comes to 9th and 10th, especially as it comes to 10th grade and now 9th grade, is really looking at students who may want to take another course within our staffing allocation. Can they have the option of taking early flight? And so we are prioritizing our 9th and 10th graders in this process, and we do prioritize students that have mandated courses such as ELD or a student with an IEP who has directed studies. We also do that for core programs that are designated as what I would say district programs TK-12 that we continue to support, like Layla, which feeds up through McPherson, and multiple other elementary schools we've just added to Silverado and Napa High. Our dual language immersion students who have committed their journey to learning 2 languages throughout that process, and then AVID. So this is actually I missed one slide, there we go. So we looked at that, like I said, across multiple different students with regard to specific programs that are either district supported programs, TK-12, or for students who we know have some of those mandated courses to see what their schedule would be and help provide some more consistent counseling into those courses as our counselors went into registration. We did also move our registration process up a month from when it typically is for our 9th graders so that we had more time for our students and really had more time to really look at the staffing implications. I wanted to thank the Human Resources Department for ongoing dialogue and communications really helping us with this shift. And then here is an example of a sample high school four-year plan. With the addition of this course, you see in 9th grade the ethnic studies and health. You see that the most impacted year in a high school student's journey is really 10th grade. And then we start to see a little bit more flexibility in 11th and 12th grade. With this particular slide, I'd like to highlight that we really did explore flexibility in scheduling and really tried to consider, like, is 9th grade the best option? What other options do we have? What are the implications of that? Is there ability for us to be flexible and when they take it? Does it need to be predictable in 9th or 11th grade? As you can see, 10th grade is not really an option. And what that looked like was mapping out the schedules, considering various levels with the graduation requirement committee, and then doing a historical overview with Dr. Boot around what have we seen traditionally and predicting some implications if we move forward a year or 2 years down the road of what could happen with staffing. And then meeting one-on-one with every school site administrative team who oversees a master schedule to consider the individual needs of our students. So for example, at American Canyon High School, we have fewer students who drive, and there aren't as many students who sign up for early flight. So knowing that, what are the implications around that? At Napa High School, we have two programs, our dual language immersion program and Layla. What are the implications for those programs? At Vintage High School, they have an amazing career technical education program, and it's larger than any other. So how do we consider that? So we went down to the school site level to think about how are we really considering the nuances of each school and how we support students with still enrolling in those programs, connecting through those programs, while also initiating this into the 9th grade year. The reason why it's in 9th grade, after considering some of those, were really three concerns that surfaced in those staffing conversations after we met with the graduation requirement committee. There are quite a few staffing challenges when you have a 2-semester course. And so is it possible in next year to have flexibility? It is. And also considering declining enrollment when we look 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, especially in the Napa and Vintage schools, we see a decline. And that has an impact on our ability to be flexible. So putting that into place in 9th grade, or giving some flexibility as we start, could have implications 3 to 5 years down the road with declining enrollment. And those implications are actually really hard to fix once they're in place, because if we provide flexibility in the system, or we have 9th graders take it and then we change to 11th grade later, you're moving through a sequence of 4 years when you implement them. And so it was really challenging to say, if we decline down to, let's just play with an easy number, I was an English teacher. We have 300 students that are in 9th grade 5 years from now at a particular school. You divide that in half, you're at 150 per teacher, which is about 5 sections. If we created flexibility in the schedule, then you might have to have 3 sections that flip-flop between 2 teachers, and then 1 to 2 sections that flip-flop in another year, and then 2 in another year, or you have to figure that out throughout the system. That has some pretty significant impacts on staffing. And so as we considered the viability in the first year and then played that out across 3 and 5 years, there were some concerns about the implications of that with our staffing. It also has an implication for students who are enrolled in singleton classes, like advanced placement courses, or particular choir courses that are only offered 1 period. When you start to only offer a class 1 period, and then there's a conflict with the same class that's only offered 1 period, then that student has to choose. And when one is a graduation requirement, there's not really a choice. And so it became really challenging to say that we could have flexibility or that we could have it offered in 2 different grade levels. So that was reason number 1. Reason number 2 was a potential mix of grade levels in health education. Considering students who are 14 sitting alongside students who are 17 talking about sexual health education was a concern of the committee. It was also a concern of the committee to wait for sexual health education until 11th grade. Students are often already able to drive. They've often already engaged in some of these activities. And so waiting until 11th grade seemed too late. And then lastly, just the potential of certain subgroups taking these courses at certain times and the demographics that would create in a classroom was not something that we were comfortable with as a staff. And so those are really, as you look at a 4-year sample plan, some of the key reasons why we have placed it in the 9th grade, and along with the signature programs that we can offer students as they transition into high school. You heard tonight from our alternate board member about the NVUSD student advisory. They really want support with transitioning into high school. And so having a course in ninth grade that affords us the opportunity to create some of those signature experiences and meet the needs that our students are bringing to us is really important. I think it's also important to note with ethnic studies that through the superintendent's parent advisory, we've heard from our families in elementary and middle school that they actually want ethnic studies earlier, that high school is too late. And so in honor of some of those voices and some of the implications that could happen in the master schedule, that's how we landed where we are today. I appreciate your patience with that. I know it's really complex. It's my world every day. It's not your world every day. Now it won't let me move off the really complex slide. Okay. First off, I just want to thank Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings and also the Vintage High School community. I appreciate the opportunity to listen and learn today, along with our staff who elevated the importance of long-term progress monitoring, which you don't see up on this slide. We will continue this throughout 24-25 as we implement the new courses, and honestly, over the course of 4 years, as we see the implications roll up through the system, because anytime you change a graduation requirement, there is a 4-year implication. We'll continue to, we presented information in January and February to parents around course offerings and scheduled our ninth grade students earlier. We're currently in the process of identifying teachers for these courses. Some have been identified and are excited to get going, and some are still in the process as we work through master schedules, which you heard earlier tonight in Assistant Superintendent Page's report. We're studying the short and long-term staffing implications, so I've had lots of one-on-one meetings with our administrative teams, had a great working session with our principals this morning, looking at their master schedules, looking at Prop 28 funding, looking at the change in graduation requirements, and I have to give a lot of credit to our high school principals for the incredible work that they're doing in complex, challenging times around master scheduling and staffing. I'm incredibly grateful for their leadership of their school communities and also just their knowledge and expertise in these areas. And then we look to April and May to provide onboarding for our new staff. We already have some who are excited and emailing me when can they get started. In addition to what you see up there, up on the screen, I'd also like to add that we are still considering like what's the best way to support particular subgroups as we go through this process. So I want to highlight a few additions. Prop 28 funding does afford us the opportunity to add additional arts and music courses. And so we're looking at how do we partner across middle school and high school at options that could be afforded students that would allow them outside of the current offerings that they have to have our new graduation requirement in ninth grade and also maybe have the opportunity available to them to engage in music and art. Typically, we offer credit recovery for summer school, and we haven't offered an original credit in summer in a while. We are exploring, and we're not yet there, but we are exploring what options could be available, such as physical education during the summer that would help with that. We're continually looking at integration. I know I mentioned this when we had the meeting with Napa Valley College, that there are courses around career tech ed that are well integrated right now. We have ag sciences that count for biology and chemistry at Vintage High School. And so looking to that model of how we support students with career readiness while also helping them meet their A to Gs so that we integrate courses and maximize opportunities for students to have choice in their schedule. And then we're looking at online options. These are a little tricky because we did design a local course for ethnic studies, and so oftentimes the online courses don't meet the requirements that we've set forth in our requirements. So this one's a little bit, we're currently looking at some of the options being brought forth to us and reviewing those to see if they really do meet that and they're ready for approval. I want to highlight tonight that Napa High School is moving forward with piloting a flexible 6-period day during the 24-25 school year. And this allows students, based on need and based on priority, to have access to an additional course within their school day. Students in 9th and 10th grade will have priority to those additional courses, given the compacted schedule that you saw in 10th grade especially and in 9th grade. Typically, those students that experience that compact right now are sitting in early flight and they're having to come early. So bringing those courses into the school day meets the need for equity. We will monitor their implementation and include American Canyon High School and Vintage High School in that process. Had the opportunity to share that with the Vintage High School staff today. We're working closely with our MVA leadership because bell schedules are negotiated through our contract. And we will continue to monitor that to see what exploration and future we can look to in 25-26 for American Canyon High School and Vintage High School. So we have lots of next steps that we look to as we go through this process and continue to provide updates for you all. With that, I'd like to thank you for your patience. A long presentation. We'll take questions.
Okay, first, I think we'll do public comments. Ms. Green, do we have any people online wanting to comment on this?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any comments? I'm sure you do. Trustee Gracia.
All right, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about was, it looks like slide maybe 43. Could you put that one back up if you wouldn't mind? That was the sample schedule. Yeah, that's the one. So I'm concerned that the slide here doesn't seem to be particularly accurate, as it doesn't provide a single slot for 10th graders to have an elective of any sort. It appears that it would be more accurate if we were to put science in the 9th grade year and thereby have a single elective across all 4 years. I know it's common practice for students to take biology in their 9th grade year, so that it is a possibility. But based on the sample schedule, are you suggesting that AVID, VAPA, and ELD students actually drop out of those courses as a 10th grader?
Students in those particular courses have multiple different options. So sometimes we see students, we allow students who have passed their 9th grade course of physical education to opt out of that course and to put it off later into their high school career, which opens up that space for an elective course or their AVID course or ELD. Sometimes we see students who put off another course such as science and they take biology or then chemistry that would be impacted by this. But oftentimes students take those courses in sequential order, and so that means they either have to take an early flight course or they have to make a particular choice. And so when students get to 10th grade, it's hard to have, there's so many, when we schedule students, we really try to sit down one-on-one with students and schedule them based off of their interests, their needs, and their passions. And so when we do that, we can create a general schedule like this, but those ongoing conversations with a counselor where they're having to make some of those tough decisions or see what they can do to make that 10th grade year work is what you're seeing in that particular schedule.
And what feedback have we collected on changes to be made in order to improve the courses, besides that one health unit, depending on if it's starting or ending the progress?
Yeah, one of the changes that we already made was needing more support with the sexual health education course. And so we made an adaptation mid-semester and changed the coursework to actually align with what we were piloting in the middle schools and the elementary schools. So that's one in particular. There are revisions to units. One of them that was shared was around the academic language and the support with that in particular. Some of our students would like more community resources and speakers throughout our courses. And so those are some of the key ones that have come up. I think the other one that was shared too is just more opportunities to really engage in conversations and learn about these particular subjects. I think some students, as was shared earlier, would like more opportunities beyond the one semester course that they would like to go into depth. I'm going to see if there's anything that Kelly would like to add to that. Is there anything that I missed? What do you think about next steps or changes?
As we considered the adoption of these courses, it was discussed that we would be able to offer these opportunities without impacting the ability of students to have a VAPA course or an elective class or CTE. But it appears that this solution doesn't really meet that requirement without forcing students into early or late flight of some type. How can we do a better job of allowing that flexibility for students who are interested in those other opportunities?
I think if you could bring up the 9th grade slide, I think it's slide 42. Go back one. Okay. I think when we look at this, one of the things that we see in 9th grade and why it was chosen is that students do still have a choice in that. It is narrowed from previous years. The exploration of the bell schedule is our option right now that we're looking at, is how can we bring those courses within the school day and really target 9th and 10th grade, as well as explore options for students to meet some of those requirements potentially during summer to open up an offering. But summer is not necessarily accessible to all. So I think my recommendation is the exploration of bell schedules that allow for that to happen in a cost-neutral way with the support of Prop 28 funding.
So it seems to me, as we continue to evaluate CTE programs and VAPA opportunities, that we may need to consider lowering our graduation requirements. A to G isn't necessarily appropriate for all students becoming career ready. Attending a UC is only a career path for a small percentage of our students. It may be that our students are better served by giving them more flexibility in their course choices. So I would encourage you to evaluate that as we move forward.
Thank you, we'll do so.
But of course.
I just have, I had sent Director Reddy numerous questions ahead of time. You addressed many of them, so I will not be repetitive. But the one thing that I wanted you to address was the exploration of online platforms. It's the one thing you didn't discuss. You went through all of the others, but that's something I think that would, that I think I would like the board to hear about.
Yeah, so we're exploring online platforms for students to be able to take. I think, as I expressed just one thing earlier, is that because we have a locally designed ethnic studies course, let me go back. Typically what happens, we currently have students who use online platforms to meet certain courses that we have in our system, and we have a process in which we go through that. They have to be evaluated so that we can pull them over onto the transcript to ensure that they actually meet the standards of the courses that we offer. So with that, we have to look at the courses with ethnic studies and health education. Because these courses are new, and because in response to the newness of these courses and the graduation requirement, we're seeing quite a few online platforms that are starting to pop up these courses and add these courses. And so we're really having to evaluate, are those viable options? Some of the concerns around that are that if a student takes a health education course but then doesn't take the ethnic studies course, there's not another semester course for a 9th grader or a 10th grader or an 11th grader to sit in. The only other courses that we offer that are semester courses are Gov Econ in the 12th grade year. So then it creates that challenge of, we now have a student who chose to do this online course, maybe didn't finish the other course, and then what do we do with that? So we're in that exploration process to play out some of those scenarios. If a student takes this course but doesn't take the other course, do these courses actually align before we start to look at that approval process? And I think there is just a little bit of reservation too, is that part of this is really like trying to provide students in 9th grade some signature experiences. So as soon as we start to move into those online courses, how are we then meeting the needs of some of those students? And maybe they're met in other programs. Maybe they're met through band or choir or other things. But those are some of the considerations that, as these are popping up, that we're looking at.
In a lot of our existing programs, and some of my peers might know, if you start in visual performing arts, let's say theater or choir, is the assumption that there's a continuum 9th through 12th? Are these, are directors of these programs willing to allow students to kind of flit in and out of these courses? Is that I mean, it hasn't been, I don't think.
It has not been, yeah.
Okay. You were whispering, so I wasn't sure. So I didn't know if that was something that would have to be addressed within kind of those programs, that students might not have the consistency that they've had, previously, and is that acceptable?
Some of our students currently face that challenge, as I explained in 10th grade, with keeping that. And so some of what we've done is programs like our jazz program. Our jazz dance program can actually count for PE credit. Our band program can actually count for PE credit. So that's a way for students to meet those requirements and also have it within their day. We have students that take visual and performing arts in 9th grade and never take it again. They meet that requirement. We have other students who then take it in 9th grade and maybe come back to it in 11th grade. And then we have some students who take it over 4 years because they are either really passionate about it or it's their first exposure and it becomes their thing that they're really connected to in high school. And so as we think about scheduling students, like those are the jobs of our counselors as they sit down with them to think about, did I like this visual or performing arts course, or did I like this particular elective course? Is it something I want to continue? Is it not something I want to continue? And if I do, what does that mean? And then having those conversations with parents as students schedule.
And have the counselors been involved in all of these conversations as you navigate master schedules and some of the challenges that we're going to see? Are the counseling departments part of this dialogue?
Yes, so they're a part of it in two ways. So we had counselors on our graduation requirement committee, and then Sarah does an amazing job, Director Knox does an amazing job of leading the counselors and across the district. And so we have monthly counselor meetings. We actually have one tomorrow where they'll get an update and we'll get their feedback. They've been a part of helping us generate frequently asked questions. They are involved in conversations around those online platforms because many of these questions filter through our counselors and filter up. And so these have been ongoing updates and communication with our counselors through those counselor meetings to kind of see, it gives us a good landscape of how it's happening across the system. It also allows us to align in some of these areas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had a quick question about, I know this is our first year we're piloting out ethnic studies. Specifically, my question is regarding that. As we get feedback from the students and from the teachers that are actually presenting that course, how are those going to be fine-tuned? What's the mechanism for that change? And will that continue as we move through these first few years beyond just the pilot year?
Yeah, so we'll continue to have those revision and review days throughout the process. We will, during the March 8th PD day, we actually had teachers who were interested in teaching the course potentially. They had the opportunity to get to engage with our expert partners from in both health education and ethnic studies. And then moving forward, we've embedded in our professional development plan next year, having those PLCs, having days for them to review and revise. And then we'll also, separate from just the course itself, also need to continue to monitor the master schedules, but we're committed to that. We do still have funding for ethnic studies specifically from the state that allow us to engage with a partner in some of those days as we go through this process.
Thank you.
I was curious, just in your process, I know we're talking about the immediate now, next year, but then I got really interested in thinking long-term and the decline in enrollment. And I do remember participating in the CSBA, which is our conference for School Board Association. And one of the topics that I went into was in the ethnic studies. And I'm just curious about the expansion of, and I know we selected a locally developed ethnic studies course approved by the board. But some of those that have done it for longer have music, and it's considered ethnic studies, literature, ethnic studies, the arts, choir. So it's not a particular course, although this provides a really good baseline on the concepts, which I think it's really important to do so. And then it piqued my interest when you said that a lot of the parents and even our students, more so their opinion in this topic, to me matter very much, want it earlier. So what is it, in the long term, what is it like to introduce this? Because it almost feels like I learned this when I was in college, and now it's in high school. So maybe this topic, is it going to be learned more in elementary school and middle school, and then high school, then you dive into the music, the arts, the math, the science. So what does that long-term look like? So when you're talking about these courses, I feel like in my head, if I were a student, I want that class to be AG, college bound, and checking off, that class is going to check off 3-4 of my boxes. That one, right? I can get so much out of that. So, because I know that, the master's scale, no opinion on that. I mean, I bow down to the space in the room and trying to figure that out.
I really like
I'm saying, and you did an amazing job. Like, we were just discussing how you were like, thank you for your patience on that, but just follow that very clearly on my end. So just thinking on that long-term piece of it, right? How are we prepping ourselves to then in the future, it looks like our high school has that college bound and you're diving more in depth on particular topics based on the math or course versus let's start you with the concepts now versus knowing that we can potentially start that earlier, which may leave room in flexibility in the schedule, because then you're working with the schedule that you currently have, then forcing this one semester thing.
So I think there are opportunities in the future to do that. we've really focused on this particular course to build that foundation and make sure, and not just ethnic studies, but also our health education course, to really ensure that we are doing due diligence to that first. It really is a foundation for then those next levels, whether it's in health sciences or if it's in ethnic studies. Our partner from California, Sacramento, Dr. Dale Allender, he's shared with us some of those opportunities that are available. I think there's interest, and I think it's worth exploring as we go throughout these next processes. Our students currently have the opportunity to engage deeper in some of those courses through dual enrollment at Napa Valley College. And then we did have 8th grade teachers on our ethnic studies committee who helped create the curriculum so that they have a mindset around 6th through 8th grade minds and what that transition was like. And so there is an interest from some of our staff, once we have this course in place, to really look at how are some of these concepts, readings, et cetera, integrated into some of our courses. Our history, social science standards call for multiple perspectives, and so it fits within those standards, and we definitely could improve in that area. So we'll look to those as next steps once we really make sure that this solid foundation is in place.
Trustee Chu.
So I'm one of those parents that would love to have ethnic studies earlier. So you touched on dual enrollment, and Trustee Jankowicz touched on online options. So I'm just remembering that we just approved in consent agenda the Global Online Academy, which I see has some courses that would fit into some, give us credit. Have you aligned those and to see what would be the comparable offering for our district, and are they able to take advantage of that?
So some of those course offerings they change their summer programs every single year. So every single year that we have them, now that it's adopted, I get to go through and look at the courses and see how they align and create that for our amazing registrar at the district office. So we'll do that as we go through this process and see. They're one of the online platforms that we're looking at to see, do they meet those particular needs for students?
Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of using dual enrollment to kind of fill some of those needs. So for example, if they had one semester kind of free or empty, is there any way to kind of partner with Napa Valley College to fill that need? Because I feel like that's an opportunity, since we're talking about dual enrollment and kind of bolstering that. Can we leverage that to kind of make that happen for our students?
Thank you for that. I'll take note of it and explore that.
And I do know ACHS has a lot of different options for that Napa Valley College brings on campus for extending the ethnic studies classes. And I just love that ability to have that partnership extended to all of our campuses. Thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, I want to thank you all for your hard work, especially Ms. Hurtado for coming at the end of your workday. That is a very long day for you. And thank you for your commitment to piloting and developing this course. And just briefly, the survey, no one else touched on that, so I'm going to dive in real quickly to the survey data that you showed. And I know it's a small sample that we're working with in this pilot phase, but it just speaks to the need. It shows that there's more work to be done, but it also, to see how many kids came out of those courses with their frame of reference changed and expanded. I want to just remind us and ground us one more time in the context that even though these scheduling trade-offs are difficult and they are going to mean a longer day for kids or a delay for their electives, the ethnic studies class was a mandate, so we didn't have a choice there. And so I'm just going to hone in on the pairing it with the health, that I, for one, am so grateful that we are denesting it from PE, because I think that guaranteeing that our kids are getting continuity in that valuable content, those valuable content areas at this stage of 9th grade. I mean, I think it's arguable that a lot of that content needs to really be getting introduced earlier, but those numbers in the surveys about how they can understand more about making healthy choices, they understand about their physical health. The comment we saw about the students saying, I get now that health isn't just nutrition. I mean, those are little little things, and that was one comment, but that systemic impact on those kids' lives, I'm just very grateful that as a board and as an organization, we made that choice to elevate the health course. I have faith that we will continue to problem solve these scheduling glitches, especially after our meeting on Tuesday. I think the potential for the partnership with Napa Valley College to help support us, particularly in those master schedule and challenges, so that our kids can do VAPA for 4 years if they want to and meet the AG requirements. I think that we will continue to problem solve. It does seem like the PE, we've found some ways to work with that. I think that that is another way to go. I know my daughter, she ended up having to finish the second year PE at Napa High, but she did a class at Napa Valley College that counted for a semester of PE. So there are ways in which we can continue to develop offerings, be they online platforms. I'd rather partner with Napa Valley College because that's a win-win for our whole community. But I just really do believe that this work is going to continue to move forward, and that we're going to continue to find solutions for those glitches that have come up. But just big picture, this content, these two courses, I think are going to be incredibly positive and impactful for our kids in our community. So thank you for taking this on, and I'm excited to see it go to scale next year.
I just want to say thank you for that presentation. It was amazing. I think my only question is around the kind of training that you mentioned that we will provide training for the staff members that we're onboarding to teach this course. My only question is around the kind of training that we are providing for them. I know that American Canyon, we have a race and social justice course, which I was fortunate enough to take last year, and a lot of the content that was talked about in the presentation and was presented on by the teacher here, I learned last year, and a lot of students were concerned because only one teacher was teaching the course, and we had questions around the kind of training that he received prior to being able to teach a course like that. So I'm wondering, this training that we're offering staff members, are we talking about the sensitivity that is, that has to be had kind of in the room when we're talking about something as sensitive as race and history and all the things listed? I think that's just my question.
Mm-hmm. I'll have Kelly Miller start us off around ethnic studies, and then I'll pick up with health education.
Thank you. And I'm really glad you asked that question because it's been an important part of our work. We are not only, as ethnic studies teachers, learning to teach units and have, evidence of student learning. We are also learning how to talk about difficult things like race, gender, oppression. That has been in tandem with, as we've been developing the course, like how do we talk about these things? How do we start class? How do we get students comfortable with one another and comfortable with an adult in the room who may not look like them to talk about things that are important? And where do we sense as teachers, hey, this is a time to pump the brakes. It's time to listen and let students lead. We're learning that as we go, but it's an important part of our revision days whenever we're working with our partner, and it will continue to be a part of our work, and it's very important, so I'm glad you called it out. Ms. Hurtado, do you have anything to add regarding that question?
Just to mention, like, for example, what I talked about earlier about going to CABE, having these opportunities so I went to a bunch of sessions. I brought, as a teacher, we can steal stuff, like lesson plans and such, and it's all good. So I brought all that back, and then I shared it with all my ethnic studies peeps at our last professional development day in American Canyon. So I think that besides being with Dr. Allender, talking among us that are currently teaching, having these opportunities to go to these trainings. I've also, I have a friend who's a professor at UC Berkeley that I pick on her brain once in a while about the same subject. So that is one way that I have gained knowledge and feel comfortable addressing some of these topics in my classroom.
Can I?
Thank you.
I forgot to add one more comment, if I may.
Okay.
I also just again wanted to thank Ms. Hurtado and Ms. Mulligan on the health class. Today's topic was on nicotine and vaping, and just to see not just the introduction of a potential addiction or an addiction that can occur, but just the connectivity to the behavior. So just connecting vaping to depression, anxiety, lack of sleep, being tired, not being focused. And just having the students in the room connect those dots was just fascinating, right? Just to be in that discussion. They raised their hand, they were just in their groups. So I just wanted to kind of add about the professional development and the importance of that quality in the classroom. And just so witnessing that this morning was amazing, as well as being in Ms. Hurtado's class, talking about systems and the students in their own group discussing it, having their own notebooks that look like a college notebook with notes and references, and just writing down their thoughts and reflections about what they just learned. But I think that question is so relevant, because we forget that we have a whole generation, or many generations, of adults, and this lands in our strategic plan, how we are asking adults to show up, right? And this is also our educators. A lot of our educators have not gone through an ethnic studies course, or this wasn't taught when they were in high school. It wasn't required. So even that path of self-learning is, I think, it can't go without being said and without being really highlighted, how much we have to support the professional development, because we have a diverse population, and the diverse population, everybody wants to know and learn more about this. It creates an impact to everybody. So offering the opportunity to have that dialogue in every way possible, no matter what race, gender, or ethnicity, or whatnot, to invite them into that space, because it's a human condition, right? It's being asked, it's in all around us, and I think that's a responsibility as an institution, is how are we also preparing our adults in the room to walk into this space, because our students are ready to want to engage. The survey shows how much growth, also the areas where there's potential diving into how we can improve and whatnot. But that, I think, to me, many times can be the harder part than the students. I feel like the students are more ready in many ways than the adults. And so making that connection is so important in the professional development. I think it's just so spot on for you to ask that question as a student sitting here on our diocese. So I just really appreciated that question, because it's very, very true. And it's something we just have to face, right? And we have a lot of talented people, and we have our days that can address this. And so, and not just for ethnic studies, but all of our courses. I mean, if you really think about it, history should be taught well, and everything, as well as arts and music and food. And so just wanted to just add to that comment. So thank you.
I think just to respond to the health education piece, it's very similar to what was shared regarding ethnic studies. For both of them, I think part of the power of the professional development that I've noticed is that bringing someone in-house to support our staff, it allows for that smaller group, as opposed to there's opportunities to go learn professionally, but much of this requires learning and dialoguing, being aware of your own bias, and having that awareness that requires trust amongst your teacher staff to engage in those conversations. They don't happen every day. And so I think what I've appreciated and noticed in both health and ethnic studies, as they discuss and grapple with potential things that they're going to go teach with 13 and 14-year-olds, is how do we best do this? What are we bringing to the table? And having that environment, I have to give some credit to Kelly and her leadership too, around being able to have those conversations in a space before you go have them and hold space for students.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a brief comment, and then I'll turn it over to the superintendent, and then we will take a very short break because we have a couple more people who need to present. Thank you for this. Yes, indeed, it is. It's mandated by the state, so we have to adjust to it. I do welcome these classes. However, all we had, for me, ethnic studies was not a class that would emphasize differences but would make us understand each other better. And all we have to do is look at the state of the world today. And, we need that. We need to understand each other. We need to be able to respect each other. And I look at ethnic studies as something that, the ideas, things they learn can be carried forward easily into history classes, certainly literature classes. Economics classes, it relates to that, doesn't it? You can, the health class, it's related to health classes, why certain groups have certain health outcomes. And as far as health goes, I would love to teach a mini lesson on the economics of junk food, particularly Cheetos, because somebody's making a lot of money off making people sicker. So you could have, I look at this as being a win for our students, and the surveys indicate that they're getting something out of it. And before I close, I'd like to thank Maestra Hurtado for letting me visit her class, where I heard they were talking about culture and the culture of Napa High, and I heard two things. One, I realized I'd learned a lot of Spanish over in 5 years sitting here. And two, I heard the most humane discussion of the mascot issue ever. And I was thinking, gee, we could have used you here about 6 years ago. Where were you? Okay.
But I was here.
Okay. And now Dr. Massetti.
Yeah, I'd just like to close. So I want to thank the instructional services team for all of their hard work, the classroom teachers that have been engaging in the pilot this year, and just more for the board. There's a lot of what can feel like competing initiatives and interests. We're expanding dual enrollment. We're retooling our career technical education programming. We're trying to preserve signature existing programs. We've got the new ethnic studies and health requirement. Thank you for the reminder that, a lot of this was driven by the state mandate. And then there may be new requirements. There's discussions right now amongst the California Department of Education and the state board around other state requirements. So the reason I sort of lay that all out is that this is a marathon and not a race. Those are all the sort of pressures on the system, and I say that like in a good way, right? Those are all things we want to accomplish for students, but we're also doing that work in the context of implementing new graduation requirements, which, is a very, it's an important policy decision. We are reworking master schedules in response to these positive pressures. We're doing it in a dramatically declining enrollment environment. While we move smaller grade level cohorts through the system, we're trying to sustain programs while adding and expanding programs. Those are all the things we're trying to do. So it's an extremely complex puzzle, and I want us to just think about this being one formative checkpoint along the way of what will be an evolving, adaptive journey as we mitigate, respond to, and balance all of these factors. And that's just really complex. So thank you for the board for seeking the information and understanding the point in time that we're in here. You're starting to kind of look towards the future and imagine and anticipate some of the things that we'll be confronting in that future. And also recognizing, the work that just happened to get us here. So I appreciate the board's high interest in this topic because it really is a big policy decision. And I appreciate the hard work of the staff that is getting us there. So with that.
5-minute break. 5 minutes for real. 5 minutes. Thank you. We are on J2B, Early Literacy Project Update.
Okay, good evening, President Water, Board of Trustees, Dr. Musetti, Student Board Member Bencole. Thank you all for the opportunity to present an update of our early literacy program. I'm joined by Director Knox and two very special guests who are hanging with us, staying up late tonight, Principal Noreen Montgomery and Leah Ortiz, Willow TK teacher. So glad to have them with us this evening. There we go. So the presentation, this work aligns very much with annual board priority 2, specifically focused on improving literacy outcomes for our youngest students, for all of our students, really. So in NVUSD, we've taken a systemic approach to literacy improvements, and we've aligned our literacy instruction with the science of reading best practices. So a key component of that alignment was the adoption and implementation of a stronger core phonics program, which we embarked on a couple of years ago. And as we have implemented that phonics program, we realized that we needed to strengthen even more our specific focus on phonological awareness. And phonological awareness is the ability to break words down into their smaller parts and put those words back together again. So we have done more and adopted an additional program to support that work because that's emerged as a really key indicator of future literacy success. So I'll talk more with you about that this evening. We've also embedded some formative assessment into our across grades K and 2 to complement our STAR screener assessments. And we are also providing ongoing high-quality professional learning through our LETTERS training. So Director Knox will later talk about the interventions that we are offering and how those are also aligned to the science of reading. So some of you have already seen this, but I just, as a refresher, I wanted to provide a brief overview of what the science of reading research tells us. So the science of reading research has taught us that reading comprehension is the result of decoding and language comprehension coming together and both being taught explicitly so that students can comprehend at deep levels. So the science of reading provides us with evidence-based practices about teaching reading that are based on the research of how the human brain learns to read. This is the simple view of reading. So that simple view of reading is expanded into Scarborough's rope. So psychologist and literacy expert Hollis Scarborough developed what is known as the Scarborough's rope. And this visual representation shows how all of the component parts of language comprehension and word recognition need to come together in order for students to become skilled readers. So emergent readers begin to read words and build increasing automaticity and fluency as they're reading. And at the same time, they are learning how to apply increasingly sophisticated language comprehension strategies, all of which come together, again, to form deep reading skills. So when we're teaching reading, all of these component parts must be taught by our teachers. So again, our core phonics instruction in grades 2, we adopted our updated core phonics program, and that was really to ensure that teachers have the curricular resources necessary to teach the bottom half of that rope, the decoding piece. So we continue to strengthen our implementation of our core phonics program through ongoing coaching and support in grades K2 through professional learning for both teachers and site leaders at our school sites. So again, teachers must attend to all of these elements of phonics instruction. That's phonological awareness, blending and building words, spelling words correctly, recognition of sight words, and applying all of these skills in the context of reading and writing. So I want to talk a little bit more about phonological awareness because, as I mentioned, that's a really critical piece that we needed to invest more time and effort into. So the Hegarty Phonological Awareness Program is a program that is used widely across the United States, and it pairs phonological awareness with phonological awareness concepts with hand motions. So you can see in this image a teacher who's probably breaking down a word into syllable parts. So if she was breaking down the word syllable, she would say syllable, syllable. So that's one of the hand movements. So if you're in classrooms, out and about in classrooms, you'll see all kinds of different hand movements. They're very interesting, but they're really helping kids to learn those phonological awareness concepts. So again, given the research and that what our first cohort of LETTERS teachers were learning, we piloted this program at 2 schools, Napa Junction and Alta Heights, with all of our kindergarten teachers. So based on the success of that pilot, we moved forward and we expanded to all of our TK teachers, and then some additional sites adopted. And this spring, all of our kindergarten teachers, are being trained in the use of Heggerty. So this is the specific results that gave us the confidence to move forward and expand the use of this program. So on one of the key assessments that we administer in kindergarten, we can see that the two schools that piloted the program, their results are significantly outperforming the district average. So with data that strong and with such positive feedback from teachers, we knew we should move forward to begin to focus more deeply on this critical component of reading instruction. So we have, again, adopted formative assessment. This is the quick phonics assessment that assesses letter names and sounds and provides teachers with the data that they need to provide targeted instruction. And our approach to ensuring that teachers have all of the skills and training necessary to use all of those tools that I've just walked through has been leveraging the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling training, or LETTERS. So LETTERS is a comprehensive 2-year program for K-5 teachers, a 1-year program for administrators and TK teachers that focuses on developing literacy and language experts and helping teachers, again, understand why they're using the programs that we're adopting and how to use them strategically to meet student needs. So, and all of that is grounded in the science of reading. So that's our training component that we've been really digging into deeply. So we are expanding LETTERS in NVUSD. Last year we had 41 teachers who started in cohort 1. This year we have our second cohort of teachers. Actually, the first cohort is finishing their second year. We have another cohort of K-5 teachers with 67 teachers. We have 10 TK teachers in the early literacy, early childhood program. And then there are 9 administrators, including Dr. Musetti, in the administrator cohort. So looking forward to continuing to expand next year. That cohort 2 will finish up their second year. Cohort 3 will start year 1, another group of teachers. We'll have an early childhood cohort again, and then we're excited to offer a cohort specifically for our community schools. The community schools are Phillips, McPherson, Snow, and Shear. So really a cohort targeted to those specific schools. And then we'll continue with an administrative cohort so we can ensure that all of our principals, elementary principals, have experienced LETTERS training. So this is an image of our LETTERS kickoff, which occurred right here in the boardroom. It was a very festive, happy event. We had all of our continuing and newly joining LETTERS teachers and administrators come together. The LETTERS staff folks that were here said this was the best kickoff they've ever seen, which we always love to hear those kind of comments. So just a great way to kick off back in August. So the next few slides just show us sort of where everybody is in their LETTERS progress and as they're moving through the program. So the LETTERS cohort 1 is finishing up. They're almost completed with all of the units in each of those 2 volumes. And then LETTERS cohort 2 is finishing up year 1, all of those lessons. And then our administrators are working on the middle 2 units, and so we're really focused in that administrative cohort on understanding how to effectively align systems to improve literacy rates. So the administrators are learning about systems approach to literacy improvement and leading change, as well as understanding what all of the teachers are experiencing so that when they go back to their school sites, they're able to better lead and guide instruction for those teachers that are learning how to become better teachers of reading. So we've had some really incredible conversations in this administrator cohort that are helping shape how we're approaching literacy instruction at the elementary level. And we finally have our early childhood group who is also progressing about halfway through the year, and they'll finish up at the end of this year. So I'd like to now invite up the stars of our show to tell you about all of the work that they're doing back at their school sites. They're the folks that are actually implementing the LETTERS with learning in their schools. So we'll begin with Principal Montgomery. You want to come up and then we'll. Thank you.
I'm going to try to get through this without coughing. Thank you for the cough drops.
I thought you were going to say yawning.
I knew somebody would say it. I don't think this will quite bring me to tears. Good evening, President Water, Dr. Musetti, NVUSD Board Trustees. Thank you so much, Director Manning, for inviting me to share a little bit about the impact the letters training has had, not just on me, but on our entire Napa Junction community. I learned very quickly last year how valuable a program Letters was when Napa Junction, the participating Napa Junction teachers would return from their Letters sessions and eagerly share with their colleagues what they had just learned. At that kickoff picture that Director Manning shared, not to toot our own horn, but Napa Junction teachers took up almost that entire first row. So we have a really large cohort, especially of primary teachers engaged. The science of reading and very tangible strategies became a hot topic of conversation in the staff room and also during PLC meetings. Teachers shared resources and strategies with one another, and organically, the teaching of literacy began to transform across classrooms without me pushing. I have appreciated so much the opportunity to participate with Dr. Musetti and Director Manning and a group of my fellow elementary principals in the Letters for Administrators course. Through the coursework and our time together and our conversations, I've really been able to take a more systematic look at what is happening around ELA instruction in all of our classrooms, using very precise observation tools and also specific dialogue. I have a much clearer vision around what I hope to see and experience in classrooms when I visit during specifically their language arts block, their language arts block of instructional time. I've also enjoyed engaging in conversations with students as young as TK and Kinder around their learning. They're able to clearly define what they're doing with their choppers and why they're doing it. I've also been able to engage in really open and honest conversations with staff, specifically our third through fifth grade teachers, about what language arts instruction looks, sounds, and feels like in their classrooms. These conversations have really shed light on our instruction overall, both strengths and of course areas where we can improve because we're all lifelong learners and educators. I feel far more confident in my approach to literacy instruction in a more systematic way and have a much deeper level of understanding around the critical components of an effective literacy block, not only in the primary grade levels, but TK5. Specifically, I am now confident in asking the questions, is our ELA instruction explicit? Is it systematic? And is it cumulative? When our PLCs come together to look at student data, especially the QPA that Director Manning referred to a bit earlier, they are able to define exactly what skills students are lacking and target those skills in small group instruction. Collectively, teachers are more confident in differentiating their small group instruction around phonics and word study and writing, just to name a few. I am really excited about where we are going as a system, and also those of you who know me. I am incredibly proud of the work that we're doing specifically at Napa Junction, and I'm so proud to shine a light on the growth that we are seeing across our classrooms among our young readers. So thank you very much for having me tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I am a TK teacher at Willow Elementary, and I have gone through most of the letters training so far now. It's very beneficial for all of our TK teachers to come together and experience this together and be on the same page of why we teach what we teach. We want to when I think of what we are teaching in the classroom, I want to be able to know why. When we were in our collaboration together during our letters cohort, a lot of the teachers were saying, oh my gosh, this is what I needed when I went through training to be a teacher. This is what I needed in school. I wanted to know why am I doing this? And we got those answers as we're going through the course. A few of the strategies that I use in my classroom and that I took away from the course was a 3 T's. Tune in, talk more, and take turns. And this is for children just to get talking more and having more experience being able to conversate with each other and build their oral language development. When you tune in, you're finding out what the child's interest is. How can you get them just to talk about it? For example, if they're playing in the block area, describing their blocks, what are they building, getting into a little more depth with them. Then you have talking more, not just talking at the children, but with them and having a conversation back and forth. And that's the take turns is the last T, where you're purposely adding in new vocabulary with them. And this can happen all throughout the day during choice time, recess, learning time. It's that conversation back and forth. We were told to strive for 5. So having a conversation, having them come back at you, going back and forth, and enriching their vocabulary and their sentence structure when you're having those conversations with them. It was hard for a few of my EL students at first, but the more and more I went in and did this strategy with them, we're at least 5 back and forth conversations with each other. The why behind this is by the time a student goes to kindergarten, they should have heard 30 million words, which is about 20,000 words a day, if you think about it. So the more we can get them to talk and improve their oral development, the better it's going to be. There were also many strategies that were taught for phonological awareness, and easy, simple additions that you can do for your day really impacts their learning. For example, just changing the first letter of their name gets them laughing and rolling around on the floor. If I were gonna say my name, Leah, but instead I changed the first sound to Mia. And so we go through all their names, and that's how I dismiss them, and they just love it. But they don't know they're learning at the same time. One of the goals for TK moving on to kindergarten is to be able to really have that strong foundation for the beginning sound when they're going into kindergarten. Another thing that we do is sing hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me? And then they'll say their name, and you can clap out the syllables in their name. So they're learning and they're having fun, and we're learning these strategies. And we know the why, again, is children who are better at playing with rhymes, syllables, and speech sounds often learn to read more quickly because these skills enable them to learn the alphabetical principle. And let's see. These are strategies that I was able to use to enhance my students' learning right away, and I've seen many increases in their vocabulary use and sentence structure, even with my multiple language learners. And right now I have 20 out of 24 of my students being able to tell me and recognize the beginning sound in a word, and that's a huge success. And the next level of the phonemic awareness is the Hegarty program. The students are learning how to rhyme, first sound, blending, segmenting, and with that they have the hand motions. If we can't get to Hegarty one day, they'll say, oh, we didn't get to do the rhyming games together. And they're going home and they're teaching their families these skills, their brothers and sisters these skills, and they know all of the hand movements. So they might be listening for the ending sound of a word, so they're punching it out, or again, chopping out that sound. And they're really enjoying it. It's great for the students. These are some of the skills that the students will have for a solid grasp on to prepare them for kindergarten and beyond. And it has motivated me as a teacher to continue to reference the why for the intentional planning that's happening every single day in the classroom. And just having the opportunity to go through this with my colleagues, all the other TK teachers, has been a very good collaborative time with each other, and we are able to share ideas off of each other and bring it back to our classrooms, and we're seeing great things in our classrooms. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask.
He has more.
Oh, wait, you've got more? Oh, I didn't even see you there. Okay.
So, good evening, everyone. I just want to say, I apologize that I don't look as sharp as Director Manning. My dual hat that I wear is I'm team mom for Vintage Golf, and so I came directly from playing American Canyon High School over at Silverado, so sorry about that. But I'm really happy to be here and be part of this presentation because we finally have really strong alignment with our intervention team, with the work of Matt and our Director Manning and all of the work that they're doing with the phonics instruction for the core, and then we take our extra scoops with our interventionist team and we build on top of that. So I'm going to talk briefly about that. I know it's late. We have an amazing team of interventionists at the elementary level that work in all of our schools. And when we first started doing intervention in NVUSD, we were looking at older struggling readers, and what we're really trying to do now is to catch them as early as possible before the third grade, because all of the research out there will tell you that students who can't read by third grade are more likely to experience difficulties in their life and in their adulthood. And so what we're really trying to do with our interventionists is provide them as many tools in their tool belt as possible. And one of the interesting things about the phonemic awareness that Matt was, or Director Manning was referring to earlier, and Ms. Ortiz was referring to as well, is that coming out of the pandemic, a lot of the students struggled specifically with phonemic awareness because of the masks that were being worn throughout the pandemic. They could not see the mouth shapes that were being made when people were speaking. And so we're seeing a lot of older students students who are older than we would typically see struggling with those sound mouth movements, being able to understand and replicate sounds. And so a lot of students are needing more speech therapy than they have in the past. So this Hegarty intervention that our interventionists are able to provide, the Hegarty manuals and training, we're working with students who typically would have had that sorted out, right, in preschool or transitional kindergarten, and we're seeing students older and older who are still struggling with that coming out of the pandemic. So one of the things that our interventionists are doing is using the Hegarty manuals, almost like they have a menu that they're working from, and they have a group of students that are struggling with specific skills. So they have Hegarty, they have their letters training, they have benchmark phonics intervention, and they have this menu of options that they can use. And I have a couple of pictures, and then the next slide, click it, of some teachers at Napa Junction. And these are actually not intervention teachers. They are, this is a TK teacher and a kindergarten teacher who, after their students go home for the day, come into the intervention classroom and then pull groups of students alongside the intervention teacher. And I love these pictures because you can see that she's doing the chopping there in one of the pictures with the Hegarty manual. They have the benchmark phonics intervention work, they're called the magazines out there with them. And then in the other picture, you can see she has these like little tins that have the letters on them. They have this just huge menu of options of intervention tools that they're using. And I appreciate the training that our interventionists are able to get alongside of our classroom teachers to be able to use with those older students who are still struggling with some of the skills that they would have received in kindergarten, transitional kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And so, can you go back one slide? So many of our, one more, am I in your way? It's okay. So many of our intervention teachers are in one of the letters cohorts. And then moving forward, we in the instructional division have come to an agreement that it's going, either letters or an equivalent level of training is going to be required for any new interventionists who would like to come on board. We feel like it's a must do, like in elementary classrooms, you say must do, may do. We feel like it's a must do for all of our interventionists to be highly trained in being able to teach foundational skills, to have all of the training that Letters provides. The last piece is that all of our, as I showed in the picture, TK teachers, when their students go home for the day, they're pushing in with the interventionists and working together alongside of them to maximize the number of students that they're able to work with. So shout out to all of our interventionists. They work really hard. And if you ever want to go and tour one of these amazing, especially in Napa Junction, they have a whole setup in there with all kinds of people and aides and supports. It's really magical to see. So shout out to Noreen and the Napa Junction crew. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So just in terms of our next steps moving forward, we'll continue ongoing Letters training and coaching. The training and the work that we've been doing has really highlighted the need for a comprehensive assessment system to dig deeper and have more diagnostic assessments, again, to complement our STAR suite of assessments. We are seeking out and developing some model classrooms as teachers complete the Letters program to have places for teachers that are just learning and beginning this journey to go in and see what high quality instruction looks like. We are working on a Science of Reading aligned literacy plan based on our new learning. And then importantly, we'll be looking forward to providing a Letters implementation impact report. As this first cohort of teachers is completing their training, we'll begin to, we know who those teachers are, and we can monitor how students are progressing and the impact of this training on teachers moving forward. So I just want to thank all of you for your investment and support of this in empowering teachers and site leaders to really ensure that students are learning what we want them to learn and making strides in their literacy gains. Thank you. Oh, happy to take any questions or comments.
Well, first I'm going to ask for public comments.
Oh.
Ms. Green, do we have any public comments? Anyone online?
There is no public comment on this item.
All right, so Trustee Gracia.
Sure. So I guess I'm just looking very forward into the future at the moment and wondering what is the idea once we've got our current teachers sort of trained up on this, when we hire a new teacher or get a new administrator to provide this sort of Letters training to them.
So we ideally would be onboarding all of our teachers with Letters training. I think it's a big undertaking. So to have a brand new teacher come into our system and then also begin the 2-year Letters commitment might be a lot. So, we might have like a year where teachers are not engaged in Letters, but we're really building capacity internally so that we are onboarding with a Science of Reading foundation. And the Letters 2-year comprehensive training would be a next step for those teachers as they get on solid footing just with how to be a teacher and teach in the classroom. So we're committed to continuing and providing this ongoing support to all teachers that are current teachers that have not yet had the training, and then as teachers on board. And there's also some California legislation that's floating around there that might require Science of Reading, not necessarily Letters, but Science of Reading training for all teachers.
Thank you.
Just a brief comment. I'm not a teacher. I've never taught in a classroom. So all I've been able to do over the years is to listen and observe and learn. And over the last 6-7 years, I've observed that successful implementation of any program is dependent on how well a teacher understands content. And in that scenario, teachers can matter almost more than programs, because if it doesn't resonate, very difficult for it to translate and be received by students. So any kind of transformative curriculum or programmatic change needs to be supported by well-prepared teachers. So to me, the idea of a 2-year comprehensive training provides the coursework for really effective instruction and then sets the standard for the program to be effective. And then that in and of itself becomes a standard for NVUSD, a literacy standard. So I appreciate the work. I realize this is a massive undertaking when you talk about all the different components that need to occur in the buy-in, but literacy and math are our priorities right now. So I, again, have never taught in a classroom, but I can see the efficacy of what you're doing. and the amount of time and commitment it takes to do. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just had a short comment. First of all, thank you both for being here so late and after your long teaching day. Thank goodness tomorrow is the last day before vacation. So at least you can rest real good after tomorrow. There's nothing worse as a teacher than that not feeling confident in knowing what you're doing. And I am here to say that at least in my experience getting my credential a long time ago, you're not adequately prepared to teach reading. First of all, when you do a credential program, you have no idea what grade level you're going to be teaching at. So you're prepared for K-6, and wherever you land on that spectrum, wherever you get your job, you have to develop your expertise. But teaching reading is incredibly complex and complicated. So I really am glad and grateful that we are giving the knowledge and the training and the consistency to our teachers so that you are empowered to do this important aspect of the work, because it is very confusing. And it is hard to repeatedly engage in silly kinds of activities that you have to do if you don't understand the why. But once you get that those little games of swapping sounds around have a real underpinning, you know, I can understand why the understanding of it is going to support the consistency and the success of the implementation. I am going to raise my perennial concern, which is that of balance. You know, we always show the graphic of the Scarborough rope, and my concern that I will bring for future conversations is that our overemphasis on the phonemic awareness aspect through letters, it has to sacrifice something in the instructional picture. And I am a big believer in teaching all of these skills are a means to an end, and the end is not being able to manipulate sounds, and the end is not being able to sound out words, and the end is not even being able to read a page and understand what you read. The end that we are all working toward is empowering students with the ability to access knowledge and ideas. And so what I always feel I always feel very conflicted around the presentation around the science of reading, because I have lived the reality of what happens when that balance is not maintained. And what happens when that balance is not maintained, and I'm not saying we are not maintaining it here right now, but it's just my cautionary little speech. What happens is that the love of reading dies on the vine, and we can look and show our test results and our assessment results and say, look how many letter-sound correlations we have improved. But that means nothing if kids don't care about reading, if they don't enjoy reading, if they don't find value in reading, if they don't keep reading after they learn the skills. And so I just am concerned about making sure as a system, as we are clearly all in on this system, we've chosen it as our consistent, uniform, data-based, you know, science-based approach to this aspect of reading, that we don't lose sight of why we do all of this. So I guess my ask is that, and I need to get into classrooms more this year. That has been a shortcoming of mine for various reasons, but making sure that in the instructional minute equation, the way this is getting allotted, that reflects the rope. So if our minutes match the rope, then I will feel really confident that this component is going to serve our kids in the long term. But if our rope is all letters, then then that's a concern. So I'm just raising that. I'm so grateful that this is being rolled out, that we're supporting our staff, that the admin is getting involved. Continuity is key. It's a key equity issue, it's a key quality issue, but I don't want to over-focus. I think when we look at the data, it's a lot easier to measure growth of letter sound identification than it is to measure growth in making connections between ideas when you read, or making connections personally, or having wondering questions about a text. So this was not short at all. I apologize. I'm tired, so I'm not summarizing very well. So I will conclude just in saying I'm grateful for all of this hard work, and I do not at all want to minimize the importance of what we're doing as a system, but we need to keep our eyes on the prize of why we're doing all of this. And it is to empower kids to access knowledge of the written word.
Thank you very much for your comment, and I completely agree with you. And I think what you're hearing more about the bottom half of the rope tonight and in our previous presentations because we've started with early literacy. But the conversations that are happening at school sites and that administrators, site principals are being empowered to have with their teachers are the conversations that Principal Montgomery is having right now with her 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers to really look at exactly what you're describing. Are all of these elements of the rope, the language comprehension pieces, are those in place so that we can ensure that students are developing verbal reasoning, critical thinking that are part of that top half of the rope? So those are the conversations that are happening, and we'll get further down that road as we have more teachers onboarding who are upper grade teachers. You're hearing more about the foundational because that's where we started.
But I guess what I would just add on to that, Director Manning, and thank you for that, is just that I think that all of that has to be happening in TK as well.
Yes.
So we are, yes, the emphasis gets more in the upper elementary grades, but all of that critical thinking and word exploration and idea exploration and discussion of what you find in books and all of that, like that isn't later, right? That is concurrent.
It happens.
The rope is the rope
at the same time.
every year.
It happens at the same time, and that's all of the oral language development, the vocabulary development that we heard about that is happening in our TK classrooms. That's all part of that top half of the rope.
And are we still having like read aloud, like those kinds of things too, right? It's not getting sacrificed. Yeah, okay.
Read aloud is a core component of the.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that.
And just wanted to add, I know you want to get out into classrooms and go see how what's happening out there, because just yesterday, and I would love to take you around, so let's make it happen. But I was at Shear yesterday in an intervention group of newcomers, kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade newcomers. And the first thing that they did when they sat down, they had a stack of books, and they were reading through the books and getting excited and showing me one of them, baby animals, and they were really excited to show me and pronounce the words, and we're going through them. And then they jumped into some of the letter work. They had these letter wheels, and they were matching the sound, and they were telling me the sound, pointing it to it on the sound spelling wall. So there is a way to get the balance and still be excited about books and still be excited about reading. And I'm right there with you, and I'd love to take you and any of the rest of the trustees around to sort of see how we strike that balance, even in an intervention class with newcomers who are our most at promise learners. But thank you for that. Yeah.
I'd like to say a couple things.
Dr. Musetti.
Thank you. So I want to thank you so much for being here so late, but I do want to make a couple comments. I am in training with Director Manning and Principal Noreen Montgomery and some of the other elementary principals and the vice principal. And something that I want to reassure the board of, and I'm sure Ms. Ortiz can, as the teacher, can probably affirm this, is that what's really, really powerful in how the training that the administrators and the teachers are undergoing that is dramatically different from us just thinking about, powering up on phonics, for example, is that we're engaging in discussions that are incredibly focused, I'm tired too, focused on improving educators' metacognitive awareness around language. And so it's easy to hear about the science of reading, and many of your concerns that you've raised, Trustee Reiser, I think are on point, and that cautionary tale is important. And as someone who's got exposure and experience around whole language, and someone who's got experience and exposure on systematic English language development and phonics in early literacy and at the elementary level. I want to reassure that the board, and you specifically with some of the concerns that you've raised, that in the training that we're sitting in, there is a degree of sophistication in the training that I do not believe has existed in other forms of literacy training for teachers. And if Ms. Ortiz wants to speak to it, but what we're learning about is the meta cognitive component of language. And we have many educators who've been sitting in classrooms who have been teaching phonics and phonemic awareness, and they've been essentially doing it on a very superficial level because they themselves did not have a deep understanding around the syntax of the language, around why phonemes do what they do. And when the teachers don't know, then the kids are never going to know. And it does keep reading and literacy mysterious. So in my experience and what I've observed in the classrooms where I've gone, it's not more of the same or just overemphasizing the phonics, but it is really building the educators' awareness around how language works, from the word to the syntax of sentences and putting them all together down to the letter, scaling up and scaling down around that. And of course, depending on the grade level that the teacher teaches, they're going to focus more on phonemes maybe versus, teaching syntactical awareness of sentence structure. But I find it to be incredibly sophisticated. And so I think there's it's easy for us to worry about a reduction of more phonics or an oversimplification of the framework to just, we're just returning back to more of the same and more phonics. This training is disrupting something that I think has been a trend in teacher preparedness around literacy. And it is making sure that teachers understand the language inside and out so they can teach the why to their children, to their students, which then unlocks a lot in the brain for students when they can understand why things are the way they are. So I just want to provide that reassurance as I've been sitting on Saturdays and doing the modules with the other administrators. I don't want to put Ms. Ortiz on the spot. It is like, what time is it? Oh my gosh, 10:33. It's really late. But just kind of for the record, so that we can prepare for planning for the future. As a practitioner in the classroom, you're kind of the most important person in the room. And if you can go to the podium, what for you are the operational barriers that you see in terms of taking it to scale? Like, what are the things in your classroom that are getting in the way of you being able to implement the training and the framework effectively? Like, could you rattle off, like, are there things that happen during the course of your day that you're like, that's really getting in the way of me being able to do my literacy block effectively?
Before you answer, though, I got to pause. Because it is 10:30, I would like to move that we extend this meeting to midnight.
Oh, okay. Yes. We won't be here till
Second.
midnight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, go ahead.
I think the biggest thing for our classroom planning is to get those pieces in. So if I have to push anything out and away, I make sure that I hit all of those points in the classroom. The things that would get in the way would be like a fire drill, or I have to go to the library that day, or, I'm going to an art class or things like that. Those are things that
So
may get in the
disruptions to
way.
time,
Yeah,
like
yes,
just like being able to find the block of time consistently, religiously, that can be a challenge.
Yes, that can
And
be
you
a
see that as kind of the biggest barrier to scale?
I think so,
Mm-hmm.
yes, because this is number one.
Mm-hmm.
So you always find the time in your day. The Haggerty it's 5 to 7 minutes that you're doing with the kiddos, and it's just quick, and you can do it while you're lining up. You can chop it into like a 3-minute time here and a 3-minute time there with the children. but I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Another thing would be probably collaborating with other teachers in order to see what they're doing and what's working well with them. So having more time with colleagues for planning time is another.
So those are the two key things.
Yeah,
Uninterrupted classroom blocks of time and collaboration with other teachers that are also in the training and implementing.
Yes.
Okay, great. That helps us as we think about taking it to scale and putting resources in place to support you in your practice. Okay, I'm done now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All righty, so we're going to K, action items. Number 1, general services, adoption of revised Napa Valley Unified School District governance handbook. Thank you very much.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Gracia, seconded by trustee Hart. Do we have any comments, public comments? Ms. Green?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay, and now, yay, 2, business services, a resolution. Resolution 2417, declaring the district's intention to sell surplus real property and approving and authorizing superintendent to execute commercial purchase agreement and escrow instructions with Thomas Wharton, trustee and/or assigns LLC.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion from Gracia and a second from Hart. And do we have any public comments? Ms. Green?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. This will be a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Bancole?
Aye.
Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, K2B, award of HB Chromebook bid T24-01.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, do we have any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. And let's see, 2C, agreement with Advanced Systems Group LLC.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, do we have any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee Bancole.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 3, instructional services. A, 2023-24 school plan for student achievement, otherwise known as SPSA addendums.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Ms. Green, do we have any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee Bancole.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, 3B, agreement with Expressions of Hope.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee Bancole.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. 3C, agreement with Star Academy at Haynes Family of Programs.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
All right, student trustee Bancole.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Righty. Okay, K3D, agreement with the clubhouse at Rancho Solano.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous. 4, operational services. 4A is Resolution 24-16, authorization to participate in the lower emissions school bus program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Gracia, a second by trustee Hart. Any public comments on this, Ms. Green?
There is no public comment on this item.
All right, thank you, and this will be a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Bancole,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Hart,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. 4B, request to purchase school buses.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion from trustee Gracia, a second from trustee Hart. Ms. Green, do we have any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. 5, school planning and construction. 5, school planning and construction. A, SBC 18.98-20, architectural services for re-roof project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. 5B, SPC 21-54-17, special inspection services for the Agricultural Science Innovation Center at Vintage High School.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. 5C, SPC 21.55-17, geotechnical testing services for the Agricultural Science Innovation Center.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. 5D, SPC 21.5617, amendment of leaseback agreement with Arntz Builders.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. 5E, SPC 1.15-24, inspector of records for multiple summer construction projects.
Move to approve.
Okay, a motion from trustee Hart,
Second.
second by trustee Gracia. Ms. Green, are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. 5E, SPC 1.15-24, inspector of records for multiple summer construction. Did I do that already? Sorry. F, SPC 1.16-24, contract for HVAC evaluation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, 5G, SPC 2.1-24, replacement of damaged roof system at Silverado Middle School.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Gracia, second by Hart. Ms. Green, are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Boncoli?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Great. Okay, L is informational, general services, finance committee notes are attached. And M, additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent. Have a nice week off. And N, future agenda items. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second, all in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.